WWF Monday Night Raw at number 4th of the year 2000. Mostly a boring show.
Oh, fuck. Dude, this fucking show, I've been trying not to swear, but I just can't help myself.
Yeah, how's that working for you?
This fucking
Try
show
harder.
opened up with, it's not even a boring 20-minute promo.
No, it's 30-minute promo.
They did a 25-minute promo that apparently in the year 2000 was considered good. Well, now it's year 2019, and they can just fuck the fuck off.
It's true.
This thing went on forever. And they talked, and they talked. And literally, it got to the point where I wrote in my notes, if one more fucking person comes out, I am fast-forwarding through the rest of this thing. Now, one more person did come out, but it ended up being Test, and so I allowed myself to watch the rest of it. And at the end, it wasn't a total bust, because at least they went back to a storyline they'd done 9 months ago or whatever. But fuck you. They did, think about this, on Nitro, they did a War Games match.
Kind of.
Ish.
No, you're missing the point. There were intervals.
That's true.
It was literally the longest match that Vince Russo had ever booked on television.
I'll say.
And
That's
he
true.
showed up in October.
Yeah.
The only match longer on a Vince Russo show, I think, was the Bret Hart-Benoit tribute to Owen Hart match, and that doesn't count. So, of all of the matches that Russo's booked, this was the longest by far. And this promo segment was 9 minutes longer.
Yeah. That War Games match took, if I'm doing my math right, 14 minutes just for everyone to get to the ring.
I hated this.
It was awful.
Passionately.
I
hated this worse than anything on Nitro.
fair. I wrote 150 words about it, which doesn't sound like much.
150?
It doesn't sound like much, but my first words are, Hunter comes out and rambles for 10 minutes.
Oh.
So if I got into detail, but in that 10 minutes, nothing important happened. So I didn't write anything important. So the deal is, on SmackDown, Hunter was arrested for spousal abuse. Somebody phoned the cops and accused him of a horrible crime.
He was stooged off.
Well, it's framed.
Okay.
So the point of this 35-minute promo, whatever it was who done it? Who called the police?
How many words?
150.
Oh my God, fuck off. I wrote 600
Easily, yeah.
and 45 words.
Yeah.
And I might add, part of that was also me writing, Hunter babbled on and on forever.
Yes.
So I probably could have written 1,000 words about this.
I'm sure you could have. So I do want to mention quick on SmackDown, there was a match with Kurt Angle and Eddie Guerrero. Now, this is 2 days after Angle's brutal concussion at SummerSlam. And after the match, Angle's in a brawl with Chyna, and they actually included, in the SmackDown recapped Open Raw here, Jerry Lawler screaming, "Don't hit him, he's concussed."
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
It's amazing. So this fucking promo goes forever. It ends with Test versus Triple H for tonight. Foley's so screwed up, he called Hunter the WWF champion, which he may as well be. He had a close-up of Hunter's face when Foley said this, and he just kind of shrugged. Like, yeah, I am.
Vinny, I'm going to tell everybody what actually happened, because I didn't waste 25 minutes of what is rest of my life to not at least recap this stupid fucking segment.
So you're going to waste more minutes by talking about it.
Yes, I'll make it quick. Foley decides that he has to find out who called the cops and sent Triple H to jail for the night. Or no, he didn't go to jail. He just goes and gets talked to by the police.
For questioning, yes.
Interrogated.
So first he says maybe it was Stephanie. And for each person that he says, they have to go into this long thing about why it may have been them, and then they have to defend themselves. First he says it's Stephanie. Then he says maybe it's Hunter. Then Hunter says maybe it's you, Foley. Then Foley says, you know what? Maybe, I think the next person is Kurt Angle. Maybe Kurt Angle did it. Then Kurt Angle says, you know what? Maybe it was Chyna. Then Chyna says, or I don't know who it was, somebody says, well, maybe it was Eddie Guerrero. Every time they list any of these 6 fucking people, they have to have their music played, and they've got to come down the ramp. They all have to defend themselves. They all have to hear the accusations. And after all of this, Foley then says, well, here's how I'm going to find out which one of you filed this false police report. I'm going to poll the crowd.
Yes.
Do you guys think it was Stephanie? Do you think it was Triple H? He goes through all of these fucking people. The people finally decide that it was Kurt Angle. So Foley then claims he's going to, I guess, arrest Kurt Angle, a citizen's arrest, and take him to the cops because the fans think it must be him.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, Test comes out and reveals it was me. After 9 months, this is the best I could come up with for revenge. I called the police, and you were downtown for an hour, and you missed SmackDown. And then they announce it is going to be Test versus Hunter tonight. And then they have this big brawl. 26 minutes, I believe this was, for this segment here. And keep in mind, the match that it set up went 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And was there any fucking person on the planet that didn't know that it was going to end with Hunter pedigreeing and pinning Test in the middle of the ring? Was there anyone who didn't know it was going to end like that? So why did you waste my time? That was the segment. Yeah. It sucked.
Rock arrives at the building.
I was begging for Russo to write something after that segment.
Chris Benoit versus Kane. Okay, so on SmackDown, pay attention. This is what this is their story.
Yes.
On SmackDown, The Undertaker and Chris Benoit were having a number 1 contenders match. It ended in a DQ when Kane attacked. So their solution to name a top contender is to book Benoit versus Kane in a top contenders match.
Yeah.
They're rewarding him for running out and getting and disqualifying the other guys.
Rewarding him.
What did I say?
Awarding.
Rewarding him for interfering in matches. It's encouraged now. So an amazing thing happened in this match. There was a fuck-up in a Chris Benoit match.
Vinny,
I'll say.
you forget. There are 2 men who could never have a good match with Chris Benoit. And by the way, one of them is not David Flair, because he had a good match with Chris Benoit. Billy Gunn
And Kane?
and Kane. Over the next 3 years, there's probably a dozen Benoit Kane and Benoit Billy Gunn matches, and every single one of them sucks. I don't know what it is.
I remember Benoit, when he was world champion, defended against Kane in Everett. And I'm trying to remember if it was good. It was not the best match on the show.
It was not good.
Okay, Craig says no. All right, I did forget that.
Yeah, they tried a reverse suplex
Well, that too.
while Benoit is draped on the top rope. And what he did, it was worse than anything I've ever seen in any Ibushi, Naito,
Absolutely.
Misawa, Kawada, Kobashi match. He lifts him up to give him a reverse suplex, and halfway up, he gives him a reverse brainbuster
Yes.
onto his head.
Yes.
Benoit ends up with neck surgery, and they blame the ladder matches.
No.
There's no way this wasn't part of it.
Yeah.
Or a concussion.
Yeah. And that was not the only fuck up of the match. There were more. So, let's see. This goes on for a while. And then eventually, Rock's on commentary, and Kane goes after him, and Benoit hits Kane with a chair for the DQ. Still no number 1 contender, and Rock hits a rock bottom on Kane. Dudley's versus the Acolytes in a tables match. So the story is, Kai and Tai are the Acolytes' wacky stereotype buddies. They are offensive caricatures of Asian people. There's their new gimmick.
Okay. That's fair.
They fuck up everything. They hit Farouk with their own flag. Bradshaw gets powerbombed through a table. The Dudleys win.
Did you even notice that? Who was it?
Jerry Lawler.
No, it was one of Kai
did.
and Tai.
Okay.
Taka Michinoku. While they're doing this horrendous backstage gimmick, actually this might have been later. At some point they're doing something backstage and they get beat up. And Taka Michinoku is trying to do his promo while holding his tongue because he's trying to learn how to say R's. This was on national television.
I didn't even catch that.
Yes.
What happened here was they screwed up. They cost the Acolytes the match. And as they are trying to apologize, Jerry Lawler is doing a terrible cliched Asian accent. Japanese accent. So sorry. And then the Acolytes destroy them. And Farouk did a Dominator Funaki onto Taka, and how they survived that, I don't even know.
I'm guessing the WWE has some Asian fans. Just throwing
That's
it out
somewhere
there.
in the world,
Right.
in the great country of the U.S.
In
Yeah,
2000, this wasn't offensive to them.
I don't
I'm
know.
sure it was. They probably just quit. There was no Twitter.
I would say they turned to Nitro, but it was on that channel too.
That's true.
Eddie Guerrero meets with Mick Foley. He says he wants to be in the ring to protect Chyna in her match with Kurt Angle. Foley says, well, I can make it a 3-way. Eddie says, okay. So we get Chyna versus Kurt versus Eddie. And yes, the story is it is 2-on-1 advantage babyfaces.
You know what? This is going to sound somewhat racist, but I'm actually not sure if it was Kai and Tai or the Young Dragons that were doing the tongue thing. Because we had a racist gimmick on both shows.
I'm pretty sure it was.
And I actually can't remember which show was more racist.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Nitro because the Young Dragons were backstage. I don't
Yes.
think we saw Kai and Tai
Okay,
again,
yeah,
but
I think it was that one. I apologize to WWE. They were less racist
Don't do
than
that.
Nitro.
No, he's right. Believe me, there will be times to point out the racism of WWE.
Yes.
On this time, they were less racist. Way to go, guys.
Yeah.
Just barely.
This is a very
What a victory.
what a low bar to claim. Anyway, so Chyna and Eddie double team Kurt for several minutes. And finally, Eddie, not content to double team him fair and square, goes to grab a chair as well. This distracts the ref. Kurt lays out Chyna with the Intercontinental belt. Eddie destroys Kurt, and then he sees Chyna lays out. He's conflicted for a while. He eventually goes to console and tend to Chyna. In the process, accidentally pins her, and he is the new Intercontinental Champion. Now, this sounds very, very dumb, but they made it as...
Eddie Guerrero made it.
Thank you. That's actually a good way to put it. Eddie Guerrero made this work, especially in the end, when in the end it did actually make sense.
Yeah, so I think that I don't even know what's going on because they do the thing backstage where he's pleading with her and he's apologizing and she's near tears, but then she says, "You can have it, Eddie. This belt means you deserve it more anyway," she says.
You deserve it more,
You deserve
she
it
said.
more anyway, she says. So they hug and then Eddie is smiling.
Yes.
And so I'm not sure if we're supposed to think that he pretended to console her, but knew that he was going to get the pin,
I
or
see.
that if he accidentally pinned her.
But is still happy with the results.
So yeah, because he was waffling back and forth about, should I get Kurt, should I pin her? Should I get Kurt, should I pin her? And then he goes over and he like gives the big hug thing and she gets pinned. But like, you didn't hear the ref? You didn't try to get off of her?
That's true.
I think that he deliberately pinned her and had to pretend like it was an accident.
Yes.
And then on the
Yes.
way out, as he's rolling her to the ring apron, he helps her to the ring apron, and she's about to slide off, and he runs back and grabs his belt, the grin on his face, and then goes and helps Chyna
Yes.
get down from the ring apron.
He wanted to pretend like it was an accident.
Test and Albert have a pep talk, and then Steph demands Hunter punish Test for calling her a bitch, and Hunter responds by banning her from ringside. He wants to go it alone, like a hero. We had a thing where Eddie tries to apologize, and she eventually forgave him. Test versus Super H. Hunter,
Quadruple H.
Hunter here was just
You know, can
a
I,
destroyer of
Quadruple
worlds.
H is, I must put myself over, my favorite nickname I've ever given anybody. Because you got Triple H, and Quadruple H works not only because quadruple is more than triple, but he also tore both quads. It's perfect.
I see your point.
yes.
That's not even my favorite Triple H nickname you have. I just like Huntor.
Well, that's a good one,
like
too.
like a He-Man character.
yes,
Huntor.
that's what he is. That's what he was in this.
He absolutely was. He was Huntor against a bunch of minions.
can I read what I wrote here?
Why don't you?
10 months ago, Triple H stole Stephanie and married her. And then Test fell off the face of the earth. 10 months later, to the day, today, this show, he reveals that, in fact, he was the one that called the cops on Triple H.
Yeah.
In 2 minutes and 28 seconds,
Yes.
Triple H boots him in the gut and then pins him with his move 3 seconds later.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I feel like this happened right after the marriage as well. I feel like they did a match and Hunter pedigreed him
might
then.
have.
I think they did, but it was like 8 guys beat up Test. It just victimized him further. It didn't help Test, but this is worse. Because what Craig is glossing over is that in that 2.5 minutes, he didn't just beat up and humiliate Test, he beat up and humiliated Albert as well.
Yes, he beat up both men.
That's true.
And then pinned this guy with his move.
600 pounds of athlete. Hunter's just laying waste to them.
He hit Albert with the pedigree as well.
He did.
There was a moment I am not making up during this match. After Hunter gets his win, he hits the pedigree, and Paisley rushes into the room.
Oh.
Because she always rushes in during Raw because it's bedtime. So there's always some Paisley moment during Raw. I'm so full of fury at the show that she just turned my whole life around here with this. So after Hunter wins, Stephanie starts running down the ramp, and she's wearing this pink shirt with an appalling pattern on it.
Gotcha.
And Paisley runs into the room, and she jumps on the couch like she always does, and she looks at the TV, and she says, and I quote, I wish I would have had this on film or audio. She says, and I quote, "Look at that lady. She's dressed as a cow." I looked at her fucking outfit, and it was, in fact, a pink shirt with these fucking... It's right.
Yes, there were blotches, much like a cow.
They slaughtered a magenta cow and made a shirt out of it for her.
I laughed, I cried. It was the funniest fucking thing ever. Look at that lady. She's dressed as a cow.
I totally forgot about it, but it's exactly right.
I hadn't thought about it, but when she said it, I was like, God damn, she is dressed like a fucking pink cow.
From the mouths of babes.
Who the fuck dressed her?
Well, I know this. Her udders are going to get bigger very soon.
Hey, there you go. By the way, speaking of Steph, during the match, she's watching backstage. And I mean, we see the back of a monitor, and we see Steph watching like a normal human. And then Angle comes up behind her.
Yes.
And he shushes someone to not make any noise. And he stands behind her like a creep. And then it cuts away.
Ogles her.
Yeah. And that's it, everyone. We never see Kurt again on the show.
No.
Did they, and Hunter at the end of this is like holding Steph in his arms. They're both raising their hands up. Is that the end of the angle right now? Is it done
it
here?
goes on. It goes on, obviously. They have the big match.
Okay.
Remember the big match?
I actually don't.
I don't.
No, they have the big match where it's like, who's Stephanie going to go with? And she just goes with Hunter, and Hunter pins Angle. The fucking storyline's over.
Okay. See,
that's the end of the story.
See, that ending is so lame. I actually forgot that. I thought
that's
they just
what happened.
stopped it.
Yeah, they did after that match.
Midian is naked backstage.
Yeah, he is.
Foley comes up, has a bunch of puns, has to ask him, promise that, quote, you won't run into matches without your clothes on anymore. Now, I realize why.
It's a fair request.
It is, but while you're at it, how about you don't run into matches with your clothes on either?
I just love that Foley says, look at me. You see this thing right here? When I wrestled, I wore one of these. I can't remember the explanation he said, but Midian looks at me and just says, there have been complaints?
Yes.
And Mick Foley quietly says, threats. Midian is baffled that nobody wants to see him running in only wearing a fanny pack.
Yeah.
And Mick Foley has to calmly explain to him, I've received threats if you run in again wearing that outfit. I love this segment.
Foley is great, and Midian is really fun.
Midian was great in this segment.
RTC promo.
Apparently at this time, Dave was referring to Midian as the Naked Man.
Okay.
I guess they hadn't given him a name yet. He wasn't officially Naked Midian. So Dave called him the Naked Man, all capitalized.
I honestly don't know why that's so much funnier,
And
but
the
it
best
is.
they came up with was Naked Midian.
Well, that's what he is.
Not like Nudian. I mean, there's 1,000 you could come up with. Naked Midian. Okay, great.
So the right dissension comes out for a promo. They announce every day a new man is saved, and today that new man is Val Venus. And they call out Val, but Val denies them. Says they are hypocrites. They preach nonviolence, yet they abuse women. They attack the freedom of the people. Richards is a little confused. He says, Val, you dumped that porn star image. You're beginning to wear white like we do. You are one of us. Val has a speech about how it's parents' job to deem what is appropriate, threatens to end them, and Richards says, if you are not with us, you are against us. And so apparently this resulted in a tag match being booked for later.
So Val is basically Sami Zayn of 2000. He's speaking exactly what Vince wants to say. Yes,
Yeah,
Brian?
but he sucks.
Okay.
Does not. Val?
Val?
I don't
He
think
doesn't
so.
suck as a promo, but like, I don't know.
A gimmick, yes.
It's just like, who gives a shit?
That's a fair
I
point.
mean, fuck, you're mad at the PTC, so you're doing this shit?
That is fair.
Go away.
He's a very petty man, Brian.
Yes, I'm aware.
Okay. This next segment actually happened as I'm describing it, with no exaggeration. Crash is backstage alone in catering, practicing and rehearsing his pickup lines. Big Boss Man comes up, congratulates him on his optimism and his can-do spirit, and then puts food on him. Dean Malenko steps in to defend the honor of Crash Holly, but Boss Man pie faces him to the ground, says he has bigger fish to fry, and leaves. To build to a Dean Malenko, Crash Holly, Big Boss Man feud?
I can't wait to see that one.
What?
But first, well, after Edge and Christian joke about genital warts and Vince goes, ha ha, in the back, Boss Man Blackman for the hardcore title. I couldn't even believe this was on my television. They're hitting each other with sticks. Mm-hmm. They fight backstage. Crash throws coffee in Boss Man's eyes. Blackman pins him. Color me underwhelmed. Did I miss anything?
Yes, after the match, Blackman beat up both Crash and Malenko.
Oh, whoop-de-doo.
Because everyone under 5'10" must be beaten up several times per show.
Wish that rule would apply here.
Speaking of people under 5'10", Taz goes to Mick Foley. Let me go back. Speaking of people under 5'10" getting humiliated, Taz goes to Mick Foley. He says, I want Chris Jericho and I want Jerry Lawler. And Foley says, I can't give you those matches and I can't give you a triple threat, but I can give you a tag team match. And your partner will be a monster who has won multiple titles in the WWF. Taz is unsure, but he says, multiple titles? All right. And he agrees.
So when I heard this, I thought that it was going to be Crash Holly. Because he said multiple titles.
Okay.
I figured, that whatever they called that stupid 24/7 or hardcore
The
title or
hardcore
whatever.
title. Tag title, I think, as well.
So it was Midian. Naked Midian, we found out later.
Later, yeah.
He's had 2 tag titles and 1 European title.
Which I believe was given to him by somebody.
I guess that's multiple. Yes, he was given it to him. He was awarded the title when Shane McMahon found it in his travel bag.
Right.
Right.
He held it for a month. Anyway.
Wow.
Foley was stretching here. That's my point.
Are you attacking the credibility of a pro wrestling commissioner?
Actually, I am. He's usually an honest man, but he's full of shit here.
Goodfather and Bull Buchanan versus Val Venus and a mystery partner, which turned out to be the Road Dogg.
Weird.
It was weird.
Worked, though.
They had a tag match. The Road Dogg pinned the Goodfather with the Tito Santana flying forearm.
Yeah.
So for those of you working in your Road Dogg creator wrestlers for your video game, make sure the flying forearm is a finisher for him now.
As it should be.
Apparently. So while this goes on, unfortunately, Val Venus is DDT'd on the floor, takes his awesome spike bump.
Of course, they do this right during the pinfall, so they cut to the outside and he's on his head already.
Yes.
You don't even see anything.
Yes.
He may have just been doing a headstand for all we know.
No.
He fell down.
And they drag him to the back, throw him in a van, and drive away. And Lawler, keep in mind this whole show storyline is built around who called the cops on SmackDown. Lawler says, maybe we should call the cops now.
It's fair.
Then, of course, no one does. We have our second mystery partner match in a row. Jericho and Lawler versus Taz and a mystery partner. It is, in fact, Naked Midian, although I did laugh when before he comes out, they play Hulk Hogan's music.
Mm-hmm.
That's his theme song.
Just to fuck with everybody.
Yeah. Wasn't that the theme song of the
Stooges.
Stooges? Yeah.
Yes.
It was as well. Which is why I thought it was going to be Briscoe.
Sure.
Fuck, I would have preferred either of them.
Yeah. Anyway, Naked Midian comes out. Taz is distracted. Lawler hits a schoolboy and wins. That's the whole match.
The official time of this match was 1 second. That was a fast count.
That's impossible.
I was just watching this and I was just like, this is the glory era of the WWF. Their most lucrative This was, if you exclude television money, just money made on pay-per-views, tickets sold, merchandise, this was the most lucrative year of all time for this company. And there's a fucking hog farmer in a fanny pack out there distracting Taz so he can be rolled up by Jerry Lawler for a 3 count in 1 second. Dude.
So then, during the break, Taz gets his heat back, attacking Lawler, choking him with his strap, and as Ross said, putting his boot right in his larynx.
Well, it's not Nitro, so he didn't actually hang Lawler unconscious.
Yes.
That's
Good.
positive.
That's a plus. Mandy and Victoria are at WWF New York.
She's back.
For one more week, anyway.
Okay.
Has anyone pointed out how ironic that it is that Victoria made her debut on the roster as a hoe, feuding with Steven Richards, and then he ended up managing her like 2 years later?
That is weird. But the first time we saw her, she was backstage as a rat for NWO.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That was not that long ago.
Right.
They tease that Steve Austin will have a statement on his future on SmackDown. Edge and Christian versus Rock and Undertaker. Kane on commentary.
Oh,
This was horrible.
he's got the fake voice and a mask.
That's the mask.
So-
He has a mask on.
You can't hear a word he's saying, and what you can hear, it sucks.
When
I don't know
he
whose idea this
When
was.
when the music was playing, when Rock came out, or Undertaker came
because
out,
they had to dub in Taker's music.
Yeah.
And in the process,
you couldn't hear a thing.
it would have been better just mute Kane entirely.
Absolutely.
You hear his growling whisper in the background. When he had like a bunch of prepared lines, when he was saying those, it was cringeworthy but bearable. But when Jim Ross had to drag him into an ad-libbed conversation, death. So it's every average Raw main event tag match you ever saw until The Rock gets the hot tag.
Yeah,
And
they got
suddenly,
the heat on Taker.
yeah, because it's The Rock.
Right.
I see your point, Craig, but when The Rock gets the hot tag, a nuclear bomb goes off in this building. My smoke is coming out of my computer speakers. It's just insane. So during his comeback, Benoit runs out and attacks Undertaker. The Rock has Christian pinned with a rock bottom, but Edge breaks it up. There's a chair shot. The Rock kicks out. Kane pulls the ref out of the ring. Kane brawls with Undertaker. And then they give The Rock a concerto.
The safest one I've ever seen.
Well, the safest one because they chose the absolute worst angle possible.
That is the key.
Where it
This
was
is true.
abundantly clear they missed by a mile.
Yes. And then in the year 2000, at the absolute peak of his career, The Rock laid down for Christian.
Is there anyone he didn't lay down for during this period? I think he laid down for everybody.
Rock did lose a lot in the year 2000 for a guy who was the top guy behind
So
Hunter.
this match, like, as soon as Rock got the hot tag, this match was great. But before he got the hot tag, that 45-minute period where the fucking Undertaker is selling and selling and selling and selling.
Corpse in peril.
He's fucking selling forever. It's impossible to get sympathy on a dead guy. He's selling and selling. And then when I cannot take any more,
I'm going to write that.
they
The worst
put
fortune cookie ever.
him in a goddamn chin lock for 90 seconds. I'm like, he's going to make a hot tag to The Rock. What does he need a rest for? Right? It's not like it's a singles match and, okay, let's give this guy a breather because then he's going to make a comeback. He had to be in this fucking chin lock for 2 minutes so that he could do a double down and then tag The Rock. It's infuriating. I hate Biker Taker. That was Raw.
That was
Brian,
wrong.
do you have my music ready?
Well, Vinny, I'm not sure if I do or not.
Should I do it a cappella then?
Do it.
The finishes on this show were
It's like I can almost hear the music.
DQ due to chair shot, win in a table match after stereotypes act like buffoons and get beaten, win in a three-way when a guy accidentally pins his girlfriend, clean pin via pedigree, win following interference in a hardcore match, pin when man is distracted by his partner's nudity, and pin after chair shot.
Yeah, there you go.
WWF Monday Night Raw, September 11th, year 2000.
I didn't even know how it worked.
Same.
I still don't. Picking players.
We get a long promo. Mick Foley comes out. Steve Austin was on SmackDown and announced he would be at Unforgiven to find out who ran him over with a car.
Yeah, that's what we've got here.
So Foley was going to beat Austin to the punch, demand the perpetrator come out and confess. Good plan, Mick. Good plan.
Yeah, because if you recall, everybody, he did an interrogation last week.
Yeah.
And it was horrible.
Yeah, it failed.
One of the worst interrogations I've ever seen.
Foley's a great wrestler, great promo, good commissioner, lousy cop.
Horrible private investigator, I'd call him.
Yeah. So The Rock comes out and says, no, I did not run Austin over. This whole thing is a waste of time. He's upset that Kane choke slammed him. He wants a match with Kane, but then Benoit interrupts, says, I am the best wrestler. I deserve a title shot. Kane interrupts. Taker interrupts. Everyone just has this giant brawl. And I'm watching on the left side of my screen, I'm watching The Undertaker fight with Kane. On the right side of my screen, I am watching The Rock and Chris Benoit. Guess which brawl was better?
So Foley had asked for the perpetrator to come out, and they play The Rock's music. And there is one human being on the planet Earth, and in that building, that thought that The Rock did it. It's Mick Foley. Because he is, in fact, the worst private investigator of all time. Not one single solitary person believes The Rock ran over Steve Austin. The Rock, in fact, reveals it was not him, and that's how we got this giant brawl right here.
Foley, afterwards, he gets leveled by Kane in the melee. And after the break, he's disheveled but alive. He promises to name a top contender by the end of the night, and also books Benoit and Kane versus Taker and Rock for tonight.
No. Benoit and Undertaker versus Rock and Kane.
No, that's not what we got.
What do we get?
Benoit.
Benoit
Rock
Kane.
and Undertaker and Benoit and Kane?
Yes. Did you watch the
whatever.
match?
I did, but I forgot. Who cares? I just remember it was bizarre. And both of those combinations I just read are bizarre.
Well, that's fair.
So there you go.
Dudley's versus Hardy's in a top contenders match because people think back about the tag team scene in 2000 and they remember the great matches.
Yep.
And they forget that the rest of the time it's just the same three teams spinning their wheels. They just wrestle in circles.
Running in place.
So let's see.
Match went a minute.
Oh, this fucking match.
Edge and Christian interfere. It backfires.
Matt's on the top rope. Edge and Christian, for some reason, don't want to fight the Hardys. They want to fight the Dudleys instead.
Why would that be?
I don't know. So Edge hits Matt with a belt. Matt, falls backwards onto Bubba Ray. Bubba has to, catch him to prevent him from dying, but at the same time make it look like Matt actually fell on him, and then fall backwards so they're on the mat. A terrible idea in execution, a terrible idea on paper. It went badly. So both guys are down.
Right.
And the ref counts 3, so I'm thinking, okay, double pin, they do a 3-way.
Yeah, nobody kicked out.
No one kicked out. There were four shoulders down on that mat. And then we were just told Matt won. What?
I don't know how, but
I guess
that's what
he
said.
was a legal man and he fell on the legal man. And
But
that
his
was
shoulders
it.
were down too.
Who fucking knows? Who cares?
So they go to, there's a giant brawl. Bubba was knocked out cold because Matt wasn't holding him down. Bubba was out cold and could not get up. But then he's totally fine a minute later. Mm-hmm. They go to 3D Edge to the table. The table does not break. It just, the legs give out and everything collapses.
It fell on Bubba.
Bubba lies there for a minute and the camera's got a close-up in his face. And it was pain or humiliation or something. But you've never heard Bubba Ray Dudley use the word fuck so loudly.
He
right.
screamed at the top of his lungs. Right into the camera. Mm-hmm. And I thought, did I hear that right?
Oh, yes,
was
you
that
did.
Bubba that screamed that?
We all
and it
did.
was. All because the table didn't break to his satisfaction. I think what it was, so there's legs. You know what legs are on a table?
Sure.
All right. Then
Craig, Brian's explaining furniture to you.
then the flat part on top, okay?
Yeah, that's
so
top.
if you fall in the flat part, it breaks like this, you go through it.
Right.
So when that didn't happen, the table, the legs kind of broke.
Sure.
But if you're watching on video, the leg broke, and so the whole table fell this way.
Uh-huh.
And so the top part of the table fell on Bubba. That's why he was so mad. The table actually fell on him
Yeah.
That's what
in
I
the
said.
middle of this move.
He did say that.
Yeah, well, I just noticed
Can
it.
you draw me a schematic of what you just explained?
I'd be happy to.
Maybe less technical jargon, like
No,
flat part.
I need to get a blank. I need to do ruffle the pages.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Animation.
A flip book?
A flip book, yeah.
Oh.
That's how I could explain this.
Please make me a flip book.
Dude, I used to make flip books all the time when I was a kid.
Of course you did.
No,
I was a flip booker.
got no friends, so you know. Lena versus Ivory.
No, I had other friends that also made flip books.
Oh, you had a club.
Quite the crew.
You must have been the really cool kids.
Oh, yeah,
Man.
it was. That was like you and Rob, actually. It was I was slightly cooler than everybody else.
I'm
Hey,
sure
fine
you
with
were.
that.
Hey, Vinny's got a belt.
Was this
Well-
you were hanging out with the future rock star, by the way?
Yeah, actually.
Okay, but you were the
You
cool
should have seen
one.
this shit I dragged him to do.
Wow, that's fair.
I talked to him in decades.
Ivory is super ripped this week.
Yeah.
Did I mention his lead on Ivory?
Yes.
No.
I know I tried to several times.
You know, it's not ripped as Naked Midian.
Naked Media's flabby and pale. Lita's having this terrible match.
No. Who'd you say?
Lita.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Ivory
said
was
Ivory.
carrying the match.
Ivory was doing
Doing her
everything
best.
she could.
Yeah. So, Naked Man is his name at this point.
I told you that last week. The Naked Man.
You said Dave said that last week.
Yeah, but I guess he said that because that's what they're calling the guy.
Naked Man does a run-in. He dances in his thong. He runs away. Lita hits a twist of fate and tries to hit a moonsault. She's all over the place. And I think one knee hit Ivory right in the boobs.
It was brutal.
I don't know
Just
if
crushed
Dave
her.
was talking to JR, but now the only two people I've ever heard call him the Naked Man are JR and Dave. So maybe Dave asked JR, like, what the fuck is that guy's name?
Who's
And
the
JR
Naked
was like,
Man?
The Naked Man. We don't have a name for him yet. That's what they came up with. The Naked Man.
You know, last week Midian was in like a Speedo and the fanny pack. This
Yes.
week it's just a thong back.
A small one, too.
Oh, goodness.
Angle meets with Foley.
We got to mention the finish was a moonsault. And
Why am I here?
one of...
Vinny just said
Can I
this.
finish explaining this, you fucker? One of Lita's shins landed right on Lita's boobs.
No!
I thought for sure that the other
can't
shin
be.
landed right on her face. So I did an in-depth investigation in slow motion in multiple angles, and I determined that in fact the second shin did not land on Lita's face.
Ivory.
Or Ivory, whoever.
Well, Brian, I had the same thought and did the same thing, and you are correct.
Thank you.
Only one knee.
It was a
Struck Ivory.
shin. It was not a knee.
I will,
Shin's even
I will
worse.
accept that correction.
Yes.
Angle meets with Foley. He challenges TNA because Hunter beat TNA in a handicap match last week.
This would be Test and Albert, not
Yes.
the future Impact Wrestling.
No, TNA.
I'm trying to add something here to this.
Which even there, Foley has to make sure by TNA do you mean Taker and Austin. Angle did not mean The Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Angle is also appalled that Hunter has the night off, and he's ranting and rambling, and he's totally getting on my nerves. And then Foley finally says, "Fine, I will book Hunter in a match if you will shut up."
Yeah.
So Kurt did a great job
Because he's excellent.
of being an irritating loudmouth.
Yes. Yes, he did a great job being an irritating loudmouth, Vinny.
Yes. We get an Eddie China video package.
Such a petty man sometimes.
So last week on Raw, Eddie pinned China, perhaps on purpose, to win her IC title. Then on SmackDown, China saw the tape. She saw Eddie smile when they hugged, and she's crying. She says, "You used me, you stepped on me, you broke my heart."
Oh,
Eddie throws the belt down, says, "I gave up my friends, I gave up my family, I gave up my personal wants for you."
why did he give up his friends and family for China?
Don't know.
Like, what do they have against her?
I don't know. He asks if she will be in his corner against the Road Dogg, and she agrees. And even though she and Road Dogg are friends, reluctantly, she does what Eddie asks and screws Road Dogg and helps Eddie win. And then Eddie responds by beating Road Dogg with his belt, so China's pissed at Eddie now.
By the way, Eddie was a star of this show.
Eddie was unbelievably great on this program.
Amazing.
So that was all on SmackDown. Then earlier today on Raw, China's putting on her makeup. Eddie goes to meet with her. She wants nothing to do with him.
What's she putting on her makeup for?
She's on Raw.
I know, but like, had they not done this match, was she just going to be on the show? She didn't appear to be booked in any other segment. He booked her in a match here.
I don't have an answer to that, Brian.
Thank you.
Well, if you're going to ask that,
Looking
why
for
did she
logic.
fly to the building?
Well, everyone's required to be there.
I see.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Eddie apologizes. He was wrong. He lost control. Losing her would be like losing his whole world. She tells him he must control his temper. He says, "I love you more than life itself. I love you more than myself. I don't want a partner in the ring. I want a partner in life." And he's down on his knees begging forgiveness. And Chyna's been sitting there scowling the whole time. And a smile breaks across her face. And she just says, "I already forgave you." I completely forgot how great this team is.
I stood up and I applauded. I ordered roses to be delivered to him.
Unbelievable. So now he's all happy. He says, let's go dance and kick some ass. Because they are still pro wrestlers. So she asks, she's down with this, but clarifies, who do you want to beat up? And he says, let's beat up Too Cool.
Well, of course, because he wants to dance.
Right.
And beat some ass.
She says,
Therefore, they must beat up Too Cool.
and she says, but they are friends. And he says, yes, they are good sportsmen. So who cares about winning and losing as long as we all dance afterwards?
She bought that.
An absolutely fantastic segment.
This China character is an idiot.
Well, yes.
She's playing it well.
Glutton.
So it's Too Cool versus Eddie Guerrero in China. Eddie is wrestling the match a complete heel. Super aggressive, not breaking on five, just being a complete dick. He refuses to tag China in. So I guess he's still a gentleman, I guess. They build up to a hot tag, but he won't tag her in.
He's a gentleman. How is he a gentleman by not tagging her in?
She doesn't have to work.
She wants to wrestle.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that question. So, regardless, he won't tag her in, but then Sexay grabs Eddie, knocks China off the apron.
The answer is he's selfish. He's a selfish dick.
That's a better answer.
Yes.
So, China is very conflicted about all this, but eventually she wipes out Scotty after he hits the worm. And Grandmaster Sexay, while she's outside, he hits a leg drop on Eddie. China's not sure what to do. Watches Eddie get pinned. So now Eddie's pissed because he lost. But he tells China he'll control his temper. He offers a handshake, and he agreed to dance. So they all put on the sunglasses. They dance for like 3 beats, and Eddie just slinks out of the ring, grabs his belt, and destroys his enemies.
Well, he said he wanted to dance.
He technically did.
He did dance for 3 seconds, and then he beat some ass.
Yes.
So, from my perspective, he did everything that he said he was going to do.
Technically true.
Yeah. Okay. This should be an easy makeup session with him and China.
Well, Rikishi comes out to make the save for Too Cool, and China is still conflicted, but she sees this giant sumo wrestler beating up her boyfriend, and so she does, even though they are friends.
I cannot allow this man to put his ass in
No.
my boyfriend's face. I must hit him with this championship.
That is exactly what she did.
Now, after the break, we come back and they showed a clip, and Grandmaster
Oh, my
is
God.
bleeding all over the place. I went back and watched the belt shot, and when he threw the belt, the leather wrapped around Grandmaster's face and hit him in the face. So I don't know if he gigged or if the belt actually cut him.
I strongly suspect the belt
I
cut
think
him.
the belt cut
I don't
him.
know why he would have gigged.
Yeah.
So
It's one of those things where he's bleeding so bad you can't even tell where he's hurt.
Yes.
Where the blood's coming from.
it's like the side of his head, on his face.
Top of head, yes.
It's bad.
Bad news. So my favorite thing on Raw, as noted, is that Hunter will be in his dressing room and someone will knock on his door and will say, come in. My second favorite thing is Hunter will be in his dressing room just getting ready. He's the only guy who gets his own dressing room because he's Hunter and he's married to Steph. Mm-hmm. He's bitching to Steph about everything. Tells her to stay in the back. He has a mystery opponent because Foley just said he would book Hunter in a match. Didn't say who it was.
He said he was going to give him, what was the words that he used?
Not something like a worthy
an
opponent.
equivalent opponent.
Suitable opponent.
A suitable opponent.
Something like
compared to TNA.
Yes. So he says, I don't trust Foley. I need you to stay in the back. Now, I don't know what kind of sense this makes.
Well,
did he think Mick Foley was going to do something to Steph?
No. Every time Steph ends up at ringside, something goes wrong with Hunter.
Yes.
All right.
Which actually is the exact same thing that ended up happening tonight. So, because he's the smartest man in wrestling, right. He knows this. So he says, I don't need your help. She goes, I just want to see the game in action. He says, well, baby, you'll see me in action close up later.
Did say that.
And he puts his finger on her chin, and she bats her eyebrows. I'm like, look at this shit. Just look at this. He's the smartest guy. The chicks swoon over him. He always wins with his move. He beats everybody clean, heel or babyface.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane. They call him the champion when he's not.
Yep.
Anything else?
Well, he got to play babyface when he was wrestling this next match, too, when he shouldn't have been.
Well, before the next match, Chyna's trying to talk to Eddie backstage, trying to calm him down, trying to ask why he keeps attacking him with his belt.
She tells him you have to control your temper, and he responds with, I did control my temper.
Sure.
Oh, yeah?
All Eddie wants to do is talk about how hot Chyna is and how she ought to be in pictures. Mm-hmm. And she says, well, I am in pictures. And I thought that there's going to be like something she had done in the past in storyline. But no, this was her time to announce that she was going to be on the cover of Playboy magazine.
Well, when he says you need to be in pictures, I'm watching this in 2019, and she made a very famous porn tape with X-Pac.
When was this?
So when she says, well, before we were together, I was in pictures. I'm like, where? My fucking timeline. X-Pac in China? Was it? I'm seriously thinking she's talking about a porn tape. Then she reveals she's going to be on the cover of Playboy.
And Eddie says, well, that's great. They're giving you a cover interview.
Yes.
And China says, no, Eddie. That'll be pictures. Pictures of my body that I worked so hard for.
And then he goes, oh, yeah, in the little negligee.
Yeah. Like covering stuff up. And she says, no, Eddie. They're going to be nude pictures. Eddie does the best freak out. What? And he shouts at the top of his lungs, nude pictures my butt. I laughed.
He doesn't want anybody to see her naked.
No.
Right? He says, what are my friends and family going to think? And I thought, you told me you gave up your friends and family. So what the fuck are you complaining about?
Bad liar. Bad liar.
Yeah, he's a terrible liar.
He threatens...
It's like he's a heel.
He threatens to, and this is a quote, storm the palace.
Yeah.
Storm the palace and beat up Hugh Hefner himself. Stop the presses, he screams. Nobody's going to see you. And he storms off.
The palace. I guess it could.
He's going to beat up Hugh Hefner.
Yeah.
I believe, I may have had it on SmackDown, but I think Eddie did go to the Playboy Mansion
I think he did as well.
in search of Hugh.
Somebody does at some point.
Yes.
Yeah, probably several people, actually.
It probably was Eddie.
Triple H versus a mystery opponent.
The feud that will never die.
No, it won't, actually.
Of all people.
It may be hotter in 2019 than ever.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm watching this match. It's Chris Jericho, everybody. And I thought, man, look who's back to have to put over Triple H. It's Chris Jericho again to go out there and lose to this guy. So Jericho comes out, and I swear to God, Hunter is just beating his ass.
Yes.
And he goes to do his fucking move, the pedigree. At that point, Stephanie comes down the aisle. Hunter is distracted. Jericho goes for his move, but alas, he can't get the walls of Jericho on. He goes for the lion salt. Alas, Triple H gets his knees up. Kurt Angle comes down next. He starts dragging Stephanie to the back. Hunter's distracted again. He goes after them. He's not rolled up and pinned like everybody else would be.
Of course not.
He goes out and he's in the aisle. X-Pac hits the ring and boots Chris Jericho. And that, not any of the rest of this, that is a disqualification. Okay, so they announce the winner of this match as a result of a disqualification, Chris Jericho. Hunter is so angry to have lost via disqualification while he was out tending to his wife. Like he's actually done a real job. He's freaking out. He's pitching a fit. He gets in the ring. He shoves down X-Pac. X-Pac tells him he's an asshole and leaves. I could believe my eyes, but I could not believe my eyes when I watched this segment. Jesus.
The Acolytes versus Right to Censor.
The reign of terror between this guy and The Undertaker. This is a reign of terror.
Acolytes versus Right to Censor.
And by the way, Vinny, don't give me that face.
I'm not giving you any face, Brian.
Who ran over Steve Austin? Do you remember?
Eventually it's Rikishi.
Okay. Well, do you remember where they go from there?
Nowhere.
Rikishi turns heel.
Rikishi
Falls off a
was
cell.
the driver, but Hunter was the guy who put him up to it.
I see.
Oh, he hired him.
He's in every fucking storyline.
Duh.
Jesus Christ. I'd forgotten about that. Like, I remember that Rikishi was a driver because it's like, after all that time, that's who you settled on? The dancing fat guy? Rikishi is the guy that ran him over. I had forgotten that Rikishi wasn't even the guy that got the big rub and run with Steve Austin out of this. It's Hunter.
The smartest man in wrestling.
And this is Uncle Paul that everybody
Yes.
just adores in 2019.
So Val comes out. He was kidnapped last week, you recall.
Right.
He comes out still wearing the same gear, got a chair, slowly makes his way to ringside. They have a terrible match for 2 minutes.
APA and the PTC.
I said that like 5 times.
I know, but I interrupted you 70 times, so I got to bring people back.
So the match is so sloppy, the announcers don't even realize that the Godfather has kicked Farouk, and they don't understand why Bull's pinning him.
They're baffled.
It's terrible. And then Val, swerve, attacks the Acolytes. And Steven Richards is out there, and they all beat him up, and that's it.
So the good father hit Farouk. Bull got the pin. APA goes after RTC. Val has his chair. He has to hit both of APA with a chair. Can you allow me to finish, you fucker? So he has to hit both of APA with a chair. So Bradshaw stands there, and he bends forward, and fucking Val hits this guy in the head with the hardest chair shot you ever saw.
That did happen.
Bradshaw goes down. Now it's Farouk's turn. Farouk stands in front of Val, and he bends backwards, and he puts his stomach out. Val hits him in the stomach. Farouk bends over, gives him his back. Val hits him in the back. I thought, that is a smart dude. Bradshaw, not a smart man. That was your chair shots there. Did you explain that in your review?
No, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
Al Snow versus Taz. So these guys, I know we've ripped on Al Snow a lot. I
Don't even say you're going to say the same thing I wrote. Go for it.
How they could have had a good match.
Oh, no. Not even close.
Okay.
Al is growing on me. Okay.
Okay. Well, Al was not here to have a good match. So tell me what Al was here for, Brian.
He is so profoundly never funny. But he never gives up. He's out here doing another painfully unfunny gimmick. He's the European champion, so he's out there as Bavarian Al Snow, and he's fucking got his hair like in pigtails or some
lederhosen.
shit. He's got his sausage. He's got the stupid music.
Excuse me.
I'm like, this fucking guy, he found another way to be not funny.
And he's got a photo of David Hasselhoff.
He's trying so hard. It's so not funny. Like it's growing on me now. It's like you said. It's funny. Then it's totally not funny.
Yes.
And then it's not funny for so long that it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But then it's not funny again.
It's like Saturday Night Live.
Now it's funny again.
It is the Mike Myers comedy theory.
Jesus God, this was so not funny.
Which made it funny.
Yeah.
So
What's he gonna fail at next?
Al Snow is doing a Halloween costume. Taz is feuding with an announcer. They have a match that goes 1 minute. A ref gets bumped. Lawler jumps up to intervene. As Craig noted, Al had a picture of David Hasselhoff out there. So Lawler grabs the picture of David Hasselhoff, breaks over Taz's head, and Al wins the cradle.
Dude.
Why did the WWE hire Taz? They've done nothing with him.
Well,
he's
they
a
were in a
joke.
wrestling
He's
war.
now feuding with an announcer.
They
were rating.
I mean, it's fair to ask
ECW.
if they were trying to get him to quit at this point, but
Well, this is not the total end, but he next month is doing commentary on Heat.
That's better.
And then in January, he's doing commentary on SmackDown when
That's even
Lawler
better.
quits. So he is being phased out, but he has a couple more matches, including they are going to do another match with Jerry Lawler at Unforgiven.
well, here Taz cuts a promo. He cannot compete with Lawler's political power, whatever that means. He's the guy nobody wanted here. He's the outsider. Well, the outsider just tapped out, and Taz is just another victim to the World Wrestling Federation. And he leaves. The announcers are baffled. They assume he's retired.
Dude, I'm baffled. This was Russo stuff. Like in storyline, the guy keeps attacking the announcer, and it costs him matches. Like, that's your fault, dude. But they're doing the whole, they don't want me here in WWF.
So they've been doing this SmackDown Your Vote registration thing. Now they are trying to get fans to sign a petition to get Al Gore and George W. Bush to have a presidential debate on SmackDown.
Yeah.
And they show wrestling fans talking about how it's such a great idea. Okay.
Mistake number one.
This is a nonpartisan political statement I'm about to make. Who in the hell would want to see that? I do not want to turn on wrestling and see a political debate. Ever. It's a terrible idea.
I think we presume that like an angle would come out of it. Like Lawler would be doing he'd be moderating, and then Taz would run in and he'd put the Taz mission on Bush, and Al would try to make the save.
Al Gore's wife could team with Right to Censor.
Yes. Oh, there's so many things they could do.
I hadn't thought of that. Trish and TNA go for a walk.
Or they'd expect it to be like a wrestling debate. Like Bush and Gore are going to debate, but it's going to be like, who's the best WWF
Cut
champion of
promos
all
on
time?
each other?
Yeah.
Angle goes for a walk. We get a commercial where Chris Jericho is shipwrecked on a desert island.
I was worried when I saw that. I'm going on a cruise with him in January.
I
right.
see.
That's the last thing I need.
Got it.
right.
Well, Brian, good news. If you and Chris Jericho end up shipwrecked on a desert island together, all he has to do is open a can of ravioli, and a squad of bikini models with their implants will come running out of nowhere.
And you can yell, yes, beefy, or whatever. It was.
I mean, there's the good and the bad with that. I mean, there's ravioli.
That's true. Bad ravioli at that.
It's not very good ravioli.
I did not sign up for this cruise to eat ravioli.
I should
Let's just
hope
put it that way. They got steakhouses on that boat.
Duly noted, Brian. Duly noted.
Let me write that down.
Kurt Angle versus TNA. So they're in Phoenix. Angle takes a shot at the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, they never won anything, which is funny because they'd be world champs in like a little over a year. So Tess is out there in red leather pants. I thought maybe Kevin Nash had a yard sale, but then Nash is wearing them on Nitro too. So I don't know where. There's two giant pairs of red leather pants out there. Hunter is backstage laughing his ass off at this match because Angle's getting his ass kicked the whole time. And then he notices Steph isn't there. He looks to his left, and there's no Steph. He looks to his right, and there's no Steph. He looks back to his left in case he missed her. Confused Hunter is so funny.
She outsmarted him. She gave him the slip.
So he goes after her. So Stephanie attacks Trish. She ends up in the ring, and Tess is going to powerbomb her until Hunter saves for the DQ. So Angle and Hunter clean house, but then they see each other.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Please do.
Since last week you guys didn't remember their big blow-off match.
Right.
So before this Angle even started, I'm watching this show, and they're doing some stuff with Angle and Hunter and Steph, and I'm like over it. Like, I've just seen it. It's been on and on. It's been great, but like, we need to pull the trigger on this fucking thing or something.
Something needs to happen.
So I'm totally not into it, and then they do this Angle, which was absolutely awesome.
Amen.
But this is what happened in the Angle, and this is very important. So Kurt and Steph, or Kurt and Angle, or Kurt and Hunter, whoever the fuck it is, my goddamn notes here. Triple H and Kurt are clearing the ring together, but then they start to get into this shoving match. And in the middle of it, Hunter shoves down Stephanie. Stephanie, for some reason, slaps the referee. I don't even know why. Hunter then double legs Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle.
He does.
May we add that to the list? Jesus Christ. Not Kurt double legging Hunter. Hunter takes down Kurt Angle. 2 points. So they're on the ground, and Angle and Hunter are knocking out referees, and they get to their feet. And of course, you'll never guess, Hunter goes to pedigree Kurt Angle. He goes to hit him with his move after scoring 2 points on a takedown. Stephanie gets behind Triple H, and she tries to drag him off. He thinks that it's a referee. He throws an elbow, and she goes down, and this building comes unglued. He has elbowed his wife, and she's KO'd. So, here's the key. Kurt doesn't give a shit.
Right.
He starts beating up Hunter again. He punches him. Hunter now falls on a prone Stephanie. So Hunter gets back to his feet. They brawl some more. Now Stephanie somehow comes back to life. She's on the apron. They do a reversal, and Kurt sends Hunter into Steph. She bumps out. Her third bump so far. Now, first off, the elbow is all you needed. You didn't need to deck her with an elbow, and then Hunter falls on her, and then you knock her off the apron. It's the typical WWE overkill. So she gets knocked off the apron, and Hunter goes outside, and he picks her up, and he starts taking her to the back. Kurt Angle runs over, and he punches Triple H as he's carrying his wife.
It's actually even better than that. Hunter is carrying her up the ramp. Kurt grabs him and spins him around.
Right.
So Hunter turns around. He's holding Stephanie's body in his arms.
Do nothing.
And Angle, just to make it sure that Angle realizes this, Angle smiles first.
Yes.
And then punches Hunter.
Yes.
That's important.
So Hunter falls down, and Stephanie falls down, and Angle heads to the back. And this leads to Foley signing Hunter versus Angle Unforgiven, and Foley's going to be the referee. And Hunter says, whatever you do, just don't stop the match. All right. So if you've watched this storyline from the very beginning, Hunter and Stephanie are married, and Kurt is trying to break up this marriage. And Kurt very clearly not only wants to break up the marriage, but the impression we are to be given as viewers is that he wants Stephanie.
Yeah.
He's into her. Mm-hmm. This was so clearly the week where they decided, we got to end this now. Like, it's over. Kurt Angle totally out of character. He doesn't care one bit about Stephanie. He doesn't care that she got knocked down with an elbow. He doesn't care that she got knocked off the apron. He doesn't care that he punched Hunter and they both... He totally doesn't care anymore. They've dropped the storyline. They shot one more angle to set up the match where they're basically going to blow off the entire storyline and kill all of this. It was patently obvious this was a week they just decided all of this. And as everyone I'm sure is aware, the whole thing was, and like the Eddie Guerrero China stuff dropped because Hunter made it clear, if this were real, there's no way she'd choose a guy like Kurt over a guy like me. And once again, the reign of terror has ended this fucking storyline. Do you know how many people were run off because of this?
You've mentioned several.
Like, it had to be hundreds of thousands. This was one of those things, this and Steve Austin turning heel in a few months. We're all witnessing the beginning of the end of the boom period right now on this show. I just couldn't believe this. It was such a great angle, but it was so obvious what was going on. It's over, and she's staying with Hunter.
All of that is true. But I will add that, as you noted, Brian, this had gotten stale, and it was time for some new chapter.
Yes.
And the new chapter, if you don't know about all the backstage stuff, the new chapter is Kurt has, he wanted to break up the marriage because he's not in love with Stephanie. He wanted to be Steph's husband's spot. And so he's giving up on that. And so he can just be a complete asshole and reveal his true self.
Sure.
So,
but the new chapter is basically the old chapter. Hunter and Steph are married,
yes,
and Kurt's a dick.
That is how it's going to be.
All of that,
yes,
for this.
Yes. So, yes, as you noted, Foley books the match at Unforgiven, makes himself special ref. Steve Blackman versus X-Pac in a hardcore match. So they're whacking each other with weapons, and the announcers are totally bored. They're so bored, they are debating whether or not the Grand Canyon is in Arizona. They don't give a shit. And they brawl up on stage, and Jericho lays out X-Pac from behind, and Blackman wins.
Whoop-de-doo.
Mm-hmm.
Benoit is telling Kane they have to work together as a team tonight. He brings up the line about how you were probably picked last in kickball.
It is Arizona, by the way.
Good. Kane denies ever being picked last in kickball. I'm not making this up. This is the promo that aired, and they leave together.
History of Wikipedia. First edited January 2001. That's why these announcers couldn't figure this out.
Because the show was in the year 2000.
Yes.
If only they had known.
Too early. They were 4 months early. Just telling you. Had it been a year later, this would have been an easy argument to settle.
Because Wikipedia is always correct.
Because they had smartphones?
No, they had laptops down there at ringside. Did they not? Maybe not at that
They had
point.
laptops. They didn't have Wi-Fi. So anyway,
Another one.
During the break, X-Pac attacks Jericho backstage with nunchaku. Jericho is the second guy to end up bleeding everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But they barely showed you any of it.
Well, they this was also, I think, unplanned because they kind of they showed a flash for it and then went to whatever else to do, and they're like, we gotta get a better footage of this. And they go back. It's been like 10 minutes. They haven't actually tended to Jericho. They've mopped up his forehead just a bit to show where he is cut.
Yep.
But it's below, like from the eye down, it's just blood everywhere. So, second guy to get busted open on the show. Rock meets with Taker. They agree.
If I mention I hate Biker Taker,
all the time.
I hate that guy, but I have to say, his promo here was very good. He didn't have anything to say, but he's like chewing, And he's just doing his tough guy act. And I thought, that was good stuff there by The Undertaker. I'll give it to him.
Chewing and being tough, huh?
Yeah.
All right. So they agree in a very tense manner that they are not friends, but they will work as a team tonight. And then Taker makes it clear that when Foley names him the top contender, he's going to come for the Rock's title.
I was so angry by this reveal, by the way. I was so angry after this main event.
No. Well, the main event, I'll repeat myself, Kane and Chris Benoit as one team,
Yes.
and The Undertaker and Rock as the other.
Yes, in a no DQ match.
In a no DQ match.
For what reason?
Why not?
Who knows? So, Foley's on commentary. He was great in this match. Also great, The Rock and Chris Benoit.
What?
I thought they were great in this match.
They're always great is my point.
I realize that. So they're having this really, really fun tag match. So at some point, a fan hits ringside, and it wasn't shown clearly on camera. But by going back and watching what they did show from a few different angles, here's what I think happened. Foley's over by the announce desk. The fan jumps right by him and runs to ringside. Foley says, "Oh, look, a fan," and then realizes he's not supposed to call attention to this kind of thing. So he shuts up about it. Probably Vince is screaming his head off backstage. This isn't shown, but I think The Undertaker jumped off the ring to confront the fan. And probably that put a stop to anything this guy was thinking of. Because the next thing you see, there's 5 security guards on him, and Taker is stepping back up onto the apron. And then everything goes nowhere. And I bring all this up because A, it's interesting by itself, but B, this crowd is so white hot for this tag team match that a fan hit ringside and Undertaker stopped him, and people barely even notice. They're just into the match.
I thought we were going to note that the exact same thing happened on both shows. There was a fan incident on Nitro as well in the main event.
Was there?
Yeah, you don't remember?
There was 7,000 people in that match.
Well, I'll talk about it in a second.
We'll get to it, but so huge brawl breaks out between all the teams. Chris Benoit took chokeslams better than anyone else, and eventually Taker is going for the power bomb on Benoit. Kane clotheslines Undertaker. Benoit turns it into a cradle and technically gets the pin.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me jump in here. So as I noted, this was a no DQ match, and I asked, why is it no DQ? You said, I don't know. This was just a wrestling match. There was nothing that necessitated no DQ. There were no tables.
Nope.
There was no chairs. Nothing.
Maybe that fan was confused.
So Chris Benoit pins The Undertaker with Mick Foley doing commentary. Now, if I'm Mick Foley, I see that and I announce, well, the number one contender is Chris Benoit.
Right.
Because he pinned The Undertaker. Mm-hmm. Instead, they go to Mick Foley and he goes, man, it's a great match. This guy's looked awesome. You know what? Fuck. Let's just do a fatal 4-way at the pay-per-view. All 4 of these men are going to fight for the title.
Yes.
I was like, okay, I'm sick of the fucking Undertaker's reign of terror, all right? But this guy never gets beaten by anybody. Chris Benoit just pinned The Undertaker. And you make the decision to have The Undertaker do a job, and then you don't do jack shit with it? What? You know how many people have been waiting to pin The Undertaker, and they won't ever have The Undertaker lose? Now they just beat this fucking guy in a random tag team match, and it leads to nothing? Not to mention, The Undertaker gets pinned, and what does he do? He jumps to his feet?
Yep.
And he walks over, and he starts brawling with Kane.
That did happen.
And, it was nothing. I was so angry. Dude, why don't you have a 4-way or a tag team match, have it end in a fucking DQ, because it's just out of control and everybody's crazy, and then you announce it's a fatal 4-way. What in the fuck was this?
I don't know.
It was bullshit is what it was.
I don't know. But it was good bullshit.
It was good action. It
was a great match.
Fuck, that was stupid.
Great match, stupid booking.
Welcome to Nitro.
Well,
That shit was.
This finishes report may be... God, I heard a lot about this. It may be worse than the finishes on Nitro.
Probably.
The finishes on this show were... double pin or single pin when one man falls on another and it just so happens that both their shoulders are down in the most convenient manner possible. Pin after distraction by naked man. Clean pin in a tag match when a guy won't tag his girlfriend in and she can't decide if she wants to wrestle or not anyway. DQ due to completely pointless run-in. Pin after distraction with a kick that was so out of nowhere the announcers didn't even realize that it happened. Pin after an announcer hits a guy with a picture of Michael Knight. DQ in a handicap match when a man who is not in the match saves his wife who is not in the match either.
Michael Knight.
Yes.
Pin after interference in a hardcore match. And clean pin in a great main event tag match. WWF Monday Night Raw, September 18th of the year 2000.
The week of September 17th.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Major news.
Confirming that.
19 years later, there's major news concerning the WWF and the USA Network.
Oh, really?
It is amazing how these coincidences work. But yes, this is the last episode of Monday Night Raw on USA before the jump to TNN.
Wow. What a jump that was, by the way.
Well, it was a worthy show to... This is a show worthy of cancellation. So it's a good thing it's the last show.
I don't think it was that bad.
No.
It wasn't great.
We open with our first 20-minute opening promo.
Well, there is that.
Stephanie... Now, last I saw Stephanie McMahon, she was unconscious in the arms of her husband, and Kurt Angle was seeing this and punching her husband in the face,
Yes.
causing them both to fall down.
Right.
Last week, it was made very clear that Kurt did not care one bit about Stephanie McMahon.
So Steph comes out here, and now she still wants to be friends with Kurt.
Yes.
What? She wants
I don't
Foley to throw out the Angle Hunter match at the pay-per-view. So there's these two Angle coming out, they're being all friendly. And the real thing this is about is Hunter coming out and he spends 20 minutes calling Kurt Angle gay.
Yes.
It's a 20-minute gay joke, everybody.
What he says is, I think that I've got you all wrong. He says, you're a 30-year-old in the prime of your life, a physical specimen of man. Some could define you as a stud. But yet in front of you stands a complete beauty, the face of an angel, the hair, the body, the personality, the total package.
I can't believe you wrote all this down.
She could be the perfect woman. But you look at her and say you just want to be her friend. What kind of a guy stands in front of a hot woman and just wants to be her friend? Does Hunter forget that he's married to Stephanie? And maybe, just maybe, Kurt doesn't want to break up his marriage. No, he must be gay.
In Hunter's world, there's only two kinds of men. Those who seek to conquer and those who are gay.
Well, he figured it out, I guess. Then Mick Foley, who, mind you, Hunter retired.
Yeah.
Hunter sent him into retirement and ended his wrestling career.
Via a series of violent beatings.
His big money years in this business, he comes out and he makes fun of Kurt Angle for being gay. Man.
20 minutes, everybody.
20 minutes.
Eventually, Foley refuses to cancel the match, which neither guy actually wanted. He books for tonight TNA and Trish Stratus versus Kurt Angle and Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Stephanie McMahon Helmsley. The RTC are talking backstage, talking about the Dudleys, when the Acolytes attack, and they get their ass kicked.
Yeah.
Val is now wearing white pants.
Well, to be fair, they attacked them 2 against 2, and then Val Venus ran in to uneven the odds. That's why they lost the fight. It's not like WWE today where they challenge to a fair fight and get their ass kicked.
No, they ambushed them from behind in a fair fight.
That's true.
And then Val heroically came to make the save.
That is what happened.
In his white pants after Labor Day.
Ah, good call. Yeah. Dudley's versus Right to Censor. Bull Buchanan has given up on wrestling in a tie. Good for him.
Yeah.
They go 3 minutes. There's constant interference, and Stevie hits a Stevie kick on Bubba, and Bull pins him. And there's a large brawl afterwards.
APA came down to even the odds.
Yeah.
Stevie Kick. That's the best name they could come up with.
He also had the Stevie Bomb and the Stevie T.
I rest my case.
Yeah. This is the era where every wrestler's finisher was taking his name and had bomb, drop, lock, or kick.
It's true.
That's what
Dude, that's way better than nowadays. We got all these just random wacky names for everything. Can't even remember.
There is a lot of that
They
going
all
on.
coincide with their gimmick, though. Most of the time.
The Rock arrives at the building for his last USA Network appearance on Monday night. He comes out for a promo.
Till they return.
Yeah. So...
He's WWE champion, in case you've forgotten.
It's very
which
easy
is
to forget.
very easy to do.
And frankly,
on this program.
Well, Foley just a couple weeks ago forgot.
He did.
It was Triple H.
He did. If you watch this show, If this was not The Rock, this would be one of the all-time bottom 10 title reigns. It's horrible.
Even with The Rock, it's like he doesn't do anything the entire show. Like, seriously, in this promo, was this the other 20-minute promo?
This was the second 20-minute opening promo.
He spent 19 minutes looking at The Undertaker, not saying a word.
That's true.
And then we never saw him again until a short main event.
Yeah. So, Taker and Rock both went through tables on SmackDown. There's this whole deal. Taker, as you noticed, Taker talking for 19 minutes. The highlight of this promo is when he referred to Rock's high school girlfriend as Mary Jane Rottencrotch.
That's what he called her. Mm-hmm. Boy.
Rock.
And then he looks at the crowd, expecting a reaction which did not come.
Yeah.
Why did Biker Taker always scratch his nose constantly?
Well,
his gimmick was he was a biker, so...
Exhaust fumes?
I guess.
yeah, they don't do drugs or anything.
I'm not accusing him of anything. I want to know why he's always scratching his nose. This is not a rhetorical question.
You want to know the actual probable answer?
Yes.
It's a nervous tick.
Okay.
He's out here having to cut actual promos as a normal person, which he's never had to do in his career. And he's probably nervous. It's a tick.
All right. So, Benoit comes out, he wants a title shot. Kane comes out, he wants a title shot. Foley comes out and says, no one said anything about a title shot until you guys showed up. So for tonight, he books The Undertaker versus The Rock and Kane versus Chris Benoit. So Kane and Benoit have a giant brawl. Rock and Taker just look at each other, and then it just ends.
There was so much looking by The Rock. All he did was look at The Undertaker. He just kept looking at him. It was weird.
We have clips of an interview with Hugh Hefner at the Playboy Mansion.
By the way, can you imagine that we had a 20-minute promo involving The Rock and the Biker Taker, and the Biker Taker did all the talking?
Mm-hmm. It's like we just said that.
How do you do that?
I don't know.
I'm looking back at this era. You mentioned this last week. The tag team division is overrated.
Yeah.
I'm looking back at what they're doing with The Rock. Like, this era is really not very good. It's the reign of terror of Triple H. Mm-hmm. He buries everybody. The whole show is about him, whether he's the champion or not. Rock is an afterthought. Steve Austin isn't there. It's the same tag matches every week. The matches are short, bad finishes. Rock sitting there silent while Biker Taker's cutting a promo. This is not good.
Just hold that thought there about Undertaker being a bigger star than The Rock. Everyone write that one down. Keep it in mind. So Hugh Hefner is interviewed at the Playboy Mansion. I believe he was talking. There's clips. I'm sad this aired on SmackDown.
Yes.
I may actually go look this episode up. Eddie Guerrero invaded. Yes. He stormed the castle as he promised. He invaded the Playboy Mansion trying to block the publication of China's Playboy issue.
Well, he got to the front door of the Playboy Mansion, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure they didn't print the magazines there.
Pretty sure.
But he tried to get in the front door.
I'm sure Hugh's got a press in the garage.
Hey, maybe. I don't know.
Next to his vet.
Why would you have the copy when you have the live thing there?
Anyway, he didn't get in the front door.
No. As I recall, there's like a whole series. He gets into the grotto at one point. But
yeah, it went throughout the show, I think.
It was a show-long running gag, and it was awesome, as I remember. It has been 20 years. Regardless, Hugh talks about how there was somebody at the mansion, but they're going to publish this damn magazine anyway. And then we have China and Eddie, probably the best thing on the show. Mm-hmm. Eddie is still beside himself, on the verge of tears, and China is consoling him by burying his face in her bosom. And she's trying to talk to him.
Well, she kind of is. She actually tells him, can you get your head out of my bosom?
What she says
I'm
is,
trying to talk to you.
Her exact words are, stay out of my cleavage, I can't hear you.
Yes.
It's only when he tries to talk to her, and now you hear his, and she pulls his head out. So Eddie apologizes for his rash actions of storming the castle, and China is trying so hard not to laugh at him this whole time. And she says, I've already forgave you. You have more important things to worry about. You have a match with Rikishi. Eddie's mood changes. He gets very, very serious, and then gets, suddenly, a bad cough. Mm-hmm. And his stomach's upset, and China goes to get him a drink.
That's the last thing he needed.
Indeed. We come back from the break. Chris Benoit and Kane are having a brawl. It goes for 3 minutes.
What did I tell you last week?
I heard your words in my head as I was watching this.
These guys can't have a good match.
Well, this was the action was better than last week until the finish.
It still wasn't very good.
It was on the low end of Benoit matches.
Kane trying an Inzagiri. Benoit just like taking bumps and Kane standing there and looking at him. This was so bad. It's a Chris Benoit match, Vinny. This is not just Kane having a match with somebody. This is Chris Benoit.
It is on the low end of Chris Benoit matches and worse than a lot of Kane matches from this era, for being honest. But it was better than last week. Until it goes 3 minutes, and then Benoit just grabs the bell and hits him with it for the DQ. At this point, I wrote, this show blows.
Actually, what happened was Benoit hit Kane with the bell, and the ref didn't call for the DQ, so Benoit beat up the ref.
Well, the ref called for the DQ, but there was no bell to ring.
That's a good point. Yeah. Maybe that's what happened. Yeah. Anyway, he beat up the ref, too.
It doesn't matter. It's just a bunch of shit.
It was a DQ finish. That's what matters. Who cares?
TNA are backstage joking about Test and Stephanie using protection. Hunter tells Steph to stay away from Test and Albert, and he'll stay away from Kurt. And now she's in on it. She jokes, yeah, you'll have to. And Kurt walks in, and Hunter calls him, and this is a quote, sissy boy.
He did.
And tells Kurt the women's room is down the hall.
No, was this the one where Kurt says, listen, I'm here to protect you, Steph, and if anybody comes near you, I will go all Olympic gold medalist on them. He says, Hunter, try to go a match without hitting your wife.
That is the same one, yeah.
And Hunter says, try to go a match without hitting on me. Crowd howled at this gay joke.
They did.
They laughed uproariously at this one, which was mostly Hunter's delivery.
Mm-hmm. Hunter is a funny guy.
He is completely unflappable when Kurt makes fun of him for hitting his wife. Because he had a comeback in his mind as Kurt started talking. So he didn't even care that he was accused of hitting his wife.
So Kurt Angle and Triple H and Stephanie versus TNA and Trish Stratus. The crowd loves Hunter's limp-wristed comedy, and prancing he's doing to make fun of Kurt. I loved Kurt Angle's go-behind in his wrestling. He did a go-behind on Test, a go-behind and a suplex on Test. I didn't even care about the suplex. I just watched this go-behind 500 times.
Well,
Jeez, I wonder why.
He was a good wrestler.
The thing is, when he did the go-behind the first time, Hunter, of course, made another gay joke.
Yes.
Ross wonders what Test's life would have been like if he had married Stephanie and not Hunter.
Well,
very different. I will tell you that.
Especially in the end.
Very different.
He probably wondered a lot of that, too. So, aside from the needling about sexual preference, Kurt and Hunter, who were fighting tooth and nail last week, they're working together, and they're tagging in and out, and they're a fine team. So, eventually, Steph gets tagged in.
Well, there's a moment where Angle is in there with, guess it would have had to have been A, and he's screaming at Albert to tag Test. I don't know why it's so important. We're like 2 minutes into the match, and he's like, tag Test! Tag Test! And Albert goes, I did! And Test gets in, and then they just start doing stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not a hot tag, it's not a big turning point, it's just like, he needed Test in the ring.
I guess so.
So they do a double down, and Hunter and Steph are both on the apron, and Stephanie is reaching her hand in for the tag, and so Kurt crawls over, and, well, she's closer, so he tags Steph.
Yes.
She's then petrified. What? I need to get into the ring? What? I'm like, what'd you put your arm out for? So, in fact, she needs to get into the ring, but Hunter will not allow it, so he gets in the ring, and Hunter just starts doing the match. The ref's standing right there like, okay, well, whatever. Steph's in the ring. Hunter's making this giant comeback on whoever's in there. I don't even know who it is. And if you're listening right now and you don't know what happened, 3 guesses what the finish of Steph and Hunter and Angle versus TNA and Test might be. Anybody want to guess? Yes, Vinny?
Did Hunter hit the pedigree leading to the win?
Well, it's even better than that. Hunter hit the pedigree on Test and had Stephanie pin Test.
That's also true. And after, by the way, he'd beaten up
everyone.
T.A. and Trish.
Yes.
He did,
in fact, hit her as well.
Yeah. He shoved her off the apron. But yes, he laid waste to everyone. He conquered all. He barely broke a sweat. A destroyer of worlds he was. A ruiner of lives. And Steph wins. So they've won. So Kurt and Steph hug again, and so Hunter sees this, and he kills Kurt as well.
How did he kill Kurt? Oh, he double-legged the
Yes.
Olympic gold medalist
right.
again?
Yes.
Wow, that's 4 points over the last 2 weeks.
This was an outstanding Hunter performance.
Oh, my God.
Now, I will say this about the whole thing. He was the babyface in the segment, and 2 things about that. 1, he's a tremendous babyface.
Well, yeah.
2, if I must have one guy beating up like 6 men and winning every single week, I'd rather have it be babyface.
Well, sure.
Now, it lasts...
But ultimately, he's a heel.
it doesn't last long, but...
He's a babyface
But
for this segment.
for this segment, for my review of this show, it was better that way.
At one point in this match, Albert and Angle were in the ring, and Albert gave Angle a butterfly suplex.
Yes.
Except he held him in the air for a 20 count.
It wasn't even the holding. It was the... He gets him upside down by the
Yes.
arms, and then says, now I'll lift him, and hooks him up even higher.
Yeah.
He's a big, strong, powerful, scary man.
Right. I was flabbergasted.
There was some good wrestling in this match. Test looked good, Angle looked good, Albert looked good, Hunter looked good.
Albert is a beast.
Albert is a monster, yes. Back in Eddie and Chyna's dressing room, Eddie now just has the flu. He's got a giant blanket around him. He's shaking. Chyna says, look, Eddie, you're in no shape to wrestle. You need to cancel this match with Rikishi. And he says, oh no, Mamacita, I could never cancel the match. The only one else who could stand to face Rikishi is you. She says, well, I could take the match for you. And he's beside himself. He's all puppy eyes. You would do that for me? Okay, you're up next. And Chyna's taking it back a bit, but she goes to do the fight. Eddie was great here. Taz interrupts the show.
Oh. Okay, so the bad news is I was so sick of this by the time they dragged his ass out of there. But the positive is he was significantly better as a ring announcer than Lillian Garcia.
He was great as a ring announcer.
He did a great job. He took over. He came out in a bow tie and tails.
He had a custom made, like, that had the catchphrase on it, just another victim or whatever, with tails.
Comes out, he gets in the ring, he goes, Lillian, what's your name? She says, Lillian. He says, what's this? She says, nose. He says, what's in my hand? She says, nothing. It's like, why are you feuding with Jerry Lawler? Like, you guys should be buddies. Lillian knows nothing. Ha 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 ha. Tells her to get out of there before he chokes her out. Then he does ring intros for Chyna and Rikishi. Mm-hmm. He was great.
He was fantastic.
He reminded me of the ring announcer for Wrestling Society X. Tons of energy, kind of aggro.
That was a great show. Should watch that sometime. So Taz, last week we saw him. He retired. I don't know what happened on SmackDown, but now he's having a strap match with Lawler at the pay-per-view. So he announces Chyna versus Rikishi and talks about Chyna is all ripped and chiseled and jacked, and Rikishi is weighing in at 6,000 pounds
below the
the
waist.
belt.
below the waist.
Which, by the way, Rikishi was not bothered by.
Well,
I mean, it's his gimmick.
Yeah. It's like, cool.
So Chyna and Rikishi, yes. Great.
I just noticed Chyna and Rikishi were wearing the same trunks.
I suppose that's true. Different sizes, but yes.
Yes. One you could parasail in.
Regardless, this goes 30 seconds. Eddie comes out. He's still sick. He gets in the ring. He starts brawling with Rikishi, and he's doing spots with a blanket wrapped around him.
The whole time.
And I thought here is where I thought this is now a Russo show. Vince Russo booked this episode of Raw, and there's more to come. So then Eddie maces Rikishi. I'm trying to figure out if this is a DQ, if it's a match. I don't know. Eddie leaves. Chyna tends to Rikishi. Rikishi is blinded by the mace, and so he Samoan drops Chyna.
That's what happened.
Then he dares Eddie to make the save. Eddie won't make the save. So even though he was blind the first time he hit Chyna, now he can see her very well, and he drags her to the corner and gives her the safest, lightest bonsai drop you ever saw. Now, I don't remember what happens here, but my hope is that as a result of this bonsai drop, Chyna disappears for a while, and there is, like, swelling, and she comes back with giant implants, and the story is it was caused by this bonsai
Bigger?
drop.
I don't think they get any bigger.
All right.
I don't think.
All I know is I may have missed something here, but I could have sworn that when Eddie came out in the blanket, Rikishi attacked him.
He may have, I don't even know.
So when Eddie maced him, quite frankly, Rikishi got what he deserved. He attacked a sick man in a blanket without provocation.
So this guy sent out his girlfriend to
He was
fight
sick.
the man,
It was ill.
and you thought he was justified in getting maced.
Dude, a sick man came down the ramp and Rikishi attacked him. Eddie hadn't done anything to Rikishi.
It is possible there are no heroes here.
Well, yeah, that is true.
Taz declares Rikishi the winner, and they play his music.
How do we know Eddie wasn't really sick? I mean, besides the fact that he wasn't when it was over. We didn't know before that. He could have gotten ill. William Regal is back.
Actually, he described himself here as Stephen William Regal.
Yes.
3 names. He is just in the ring. There's a table and chairs and silverware set up. The announcers have no idea what is going on.
And music.
And music. And Regal declares himself the goodwill ambassador to the American people. A Russo show, I tell you.
You just knew watching this that something was happening.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those Vince McMahon things where it's just like it's like visual comedy that's not really that funny, but you know something's going to happen.
Oh, I don't know. Regal made it pretty good.
Regal is very funny. He gives all the rude Americans a course in table manners and what to do with which fork, what to do with your napkin. It's for wiping your mouth, not other orifices. So Jericho interrupts, claims this is Regal's debut. So the real man's man is now gone, never existed.
No.
So Jericho comes out and he's talking about how he made his own debut in this very same building in Chicago. And I'm like, go thinking back on Jericho's history, like 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, for like 10 minutes, he was the world champion and the hottest guy in the whole company. Now he's out here doing wacky comedy bits. Mm-hmm. Sucks. It's funny. Yeah. They're both very good at comedy. In the middle of this, X-Pac attacks Jericho from behind. The live camera misses it, but at least they had a replay. So it's not like the standard big dinner table they have. It's a
card table.
It's a card table. And X-Pac does not put Jericho through the table. He breaks the table over Jericho. Mm-hmm. He lays it over Jericho and does like a double foot stomp on either side, and it breaks. With all the legs poking up, by the way. Could hurt himself.
That was dangerous. He could have turned an ankle or been impaled.
All kinds of bad things.
Did we talk about that magic trick?
No, we didn't.
I glossed over it.
That's very important.
All right.
Jericho was going to yank the tablecloth, and he said all of these silverware, fine china, and glassware would be untouched, unbroken, and nothing would touch the mat. Well, you knew it was going to happen. It all went all over the place.
Well, he wrapped it all up in the tablecloth and threw it all in the aisle.
So
it never touched the mat.
Well, it didn't touch the mat. That's true. So I think the reason that X-Pac broke the table was it was like a card table.
Yes.
Okay. So
write that down.
It's not like a regular table where you can just put someone through it because it just breaks. It's a card table with the metal frame. Okay. You ever tried to go through a card table? Ask the headbangers how it feels to go through a card table.
That's right.
That nearly killed them.
I do remember that.
Yeah, they hit the edges of the wire or the metal or whatever that goes around. You can't just go through the middle unless you're like a mini. Your body goes through the middle, but the rest of you hits the metal part over there or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so he turned it over and just stomped on him. Okay. That's why. And yes, nunchakus were used in the attack.
Yes. The Rock paces, and they show more clips from SmackDown of Taker and Rock going through tables. They show Austin getting hit by a car last year in November.
A year ago.
Yep. Two fools, as Taz called them, versus Edge and Christian. As JR says that Too Cool here gets to go one-on-one with the tag team champions.
This was when I was over this show.
That would be 2-on-2, by the way.
Just another Too Cool
you know why?
Edge and Christian match.
This is one of those shows, and Nitro was the same way, where there's so much garbage happening that when you finally get an extended period that's just wrestling, now it's boring.
Yeah, you want it to get over with.
But still, it was wrestling with a ref distraction, a belt shot, this, that. I'm like, come on, just do a finish.
They got 5 minutes to do all this crap at least. So Too Cool has the titles won. The ref gets distracted. Edge pins Sexay with a belt shot. The Undertaker shadow boxes and spits. They go to.
Did he pull on his nose?
Yeah, I don't believe he did actually. It's when he's holding the microphone.
I see.
And he scratches it with the hand holding the mic. Is why I always.
Yeah, he's nervous. Nervous tick.
At WWF New York, Naked Man is streaking, and yes, that is still his name.
Told you, Naked Man.
Now Foley comes out for a promo, and the first thing he says is, "I know I've been out here a lot." Yeah, no shit. Then his promo was all about Bush and Gore in the election and bullshit. I am so sick of this.
Only another month left.
We get
Think about how hard they hammered it home the night before the election.
Don't remember.
They hammered it home.
I'm sure it sucks. Finally, we get Rock versus Taker with Chris Benoit being very boring on commentary. They do a nothing match. A nothing match.
2 minutes in, there's a ref bump. Crowd doesn't even react. Taker goes for a DDT, hits it, no ref. Fans are all looking to the back. Rock hits a rock bottom, no ref. Taker hits a choke slam. Rock kicks out. Like every WWE trope you've ever seen. To their credit, the fans were crazy into it.
The building was nuts.
So then, let me repeat that. Ref bump. Undertaker has a cover, no ref. Rock has a cover, no ref. Undertaker hits a move. The ref barely wakes up. Rock kicks out. Finally, after all that, Undertaker grabs him, gives him a press powerbomb, and pins him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Why in God's name did you do all of that extraneous stuff when you're just going to do an Undertaker clean pin on The Rock? I was furious.
That's a great question.
Why couldn't you just do a good match and have The Undertaker pin him? Well, because it's Raw.
I will add that in addition to having Undertaker undress The Rock for 20 minutes verbally, then he has to go out here and win in a fight as well. Like, if this was not The Rock and you watch this show, the top stars are Triple H, Stephanie, then Undertaker, then probably Kurt, then Foley, and then a way, way, way big drop-off is Dwayne Johnson.
But you know what?
But
Dwayne Johnson was super over, and he was bulletproof.
That's the problem.
And they're so dumb that they have booked babyfaces the same way ever since, and they haven't had anyone approaching The Rock since.
No, because he was The Rock. Now, on top of all of this, by the way, how many times have we said when there's a shitty finish, we always say, why can't they do a clean pin and then do a brawl? Of all the shows to do a clean pin and then do a brawl, it's this one. It was that important for The Undertaker to pin Rock in a non-title match on the go-home show to whatever pay-per-view this is. Fall Brawl or whatever. What is this show?
It's Unforgiven.
Unforgiven.
Fall Brawl's the other channel.
I can remember that one. Well, like Randy, it rhymes, so I remember. Anyway, I hated this episode of Raw.
I thought it was fine. It's just a 2000 Raw. This was a 2000 Raw. Like, everything you think of when you think of Raw in the year 2000 was on this show. You ready?
Sure. The finishes on this show were pin after interference, DQ due to bell attack, clean pin in an intergender trios match, DQ or some such bullshit when a guy in a blanket maces a sumo wrestler so his girlfriend doesn't have to fight him, pin after belt shot, and clean pin of the world champion who never actually pins anyone because God forbid we have the guy on the bike ever not win a match. WWF Monday Night Raw, September 25th of the year 2000. So Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin was out for a promo. This is, for Raw at least, the debut of his Disturbed theme song.
It sucks.
Yeah,
this music sucks.
I don't like
How do you change Stone Cold Steve Austin's music? That's like something Russo would have done, but he's gone.
All I know is, I don't hate it as much as you do, but he came out, and as soon as the guy started to sing, and I realized it was Disturbed, I had an epiphany.
Okay.
A great what-if question.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it.
If Shawn Michaels had not been injured, what new metal band would have covered Sexy Boy in the year 2000?
Well, there's no guarantee they would have tried to recover that one.
I want to hear Korn do that one. Come on, am I the only one?
Yes, you're the only one.
Right. I could hear Phildy using that slap bass on the...
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So Austin says since he's been gone, Vince left to make babies. Hunter and Steph have...
I totally forgot about that. That wasn't on Raw, was it? That was SmackDown Angle.
No,
the genetic jackhammer line?
Was it?
Yeah.
God, that was a long time ago.
It was a few months back.
God.
Hunter and Steph have the worst marriage ever. And Midian is now naked.
Yeah, of all the things, that's what he concludes with.
So he does his spiel, says, the one thing hasn't changed. I'm still here to drink beer and raise hell. I'm going to find the bastard who ran me over, and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. And I thought, that went 6 minutes. That he made his point. Had some fun. He's done. It didn't drag it out any longer than necessary. He just left. I am so happy right now.
Oh, Vinny.
And then Mick Foley came out.
Did you
now listen?
No.
I love Mick Foley, and Mick Foley was awesome in this promo. But I was so unhappy when he came out because I thought we were done. Foley comes out, and the reason he is awesome here is because it's his job to establish himself as the authority figure, which eventually Steve Austin will stun. But we're not going to do it in one night. We're going to build up to it. So he had to come out and be a babyface, but be kind of an unlikable babyface. So he began by whining that Austin had not mentioned him. Said, I am in charge now, bragged about how everyone liked him, and tells Austin to take the night off and he will handle the investigation.
Yes, he is going to find out who the culprit is. Culprit.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the same line being used in 2019 about who impregnated Maria. Who's the culprit?
Well,
a culprit.
Well, to be honest, it may be the same guy. Who knows?
Well,
so.
assailant wouldn't
I
sound.
don't think it was Rikishi.
Or Hunter is what I was thinking.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I hope not.
That would be quite a story, wouldn't
That
it?
would be quite the... We'd be seeing some NXT changes.
quite a
I'll say.
few.
Mike Bennett in charge.
So, before Austin can do much,
Steve says your investigation sucks, with all due respect.
and he accuses Foley of being the man.
Yes. Then Benoit comes out and he introduces himself. Think about this. When Steve Austin's talking about all the things that changed, like, when he left, there was no Chris Benoit.
There was no radicals.
Now Chris Benoit is all over the show having great matches.
Yeah.
He introduces himself, but he's moving on. He wants a match against The Rock.
He got screwed out of the title the night before. For the second time this year, he was announced as champion and then they took it away. He wants a title shot tonight.
Foley admitted that he might have cheated him.
Foley did. Foley said, there's a fan here with a sign reading Benoit got screwed, and I agree. So Foley granted Benoit his match against The Rock tonight. Then Angle comes out. He talked about a lot of stuff, actually. He denied that either he or Benoit ran Austin over, pointed out that when Austin got run over, Benoit wasn't even in the company. And he is a man of integrity.
That's
so
pretty
he
good
would not do it.
evidence.
He demanded an apology from Austin. Somewhere in here, he also wanted a rematch with Triple H, and Foley said no. So he turns to Austin and demands an apology, and you'll never guess what happened next. Austin stunned him, and he ducked a Benoit clothesline, stunned Benoit as well, and everyone was happy. I mean,
Whoop-de-doo.
I have seen worse 20-minute promos, but
Yeah, it's still just too much stuff.
it's too much talking. And then, this next match, I wanted another 20-minute promo. It's Kane versus Rikishi.
By the way, did you mention this is the first show they've done on TNN?
It is their debut on, was it the national network
sorry.
at this point?
Yeah.
Well, no,
It's TNN. but
TNN, but
they had changed it like recently. Out.
it
before
had
that.
been the Nashville network. And
Yes.
I forget how the timing of when they changed the name. But yes, they're on TNN now, everyone.
All I know is if they hadn't actually told us, you would never have known.
No, it was exactly.
It looks exactly the same. Nothing has changed. It's the exact same Raw show.
So Kane and Rikishi come out. They have a horrible brawl for 2 minutes, and they shut the ref down. It's a DQ. Fuck this.
It was insufferably boring.
And then they wailed on each other with chairs for a while. This all established nothing. So now, after the
Just a nothing brawl, boring. We're all on the same page about this match.
I wrote dud. Went 2 minutes and 2 seconds.
Hey, listen, I hear that this Kane documentary is
It's awesome.
awesome.
I did watch that.
I'm going to
It's barely a half hour, a little bit more. It's about Kane and it's about Hell in the Cell, and it's Michaels and Undertaker and Kane talking about, and Bruce Pritchard. It's great.
yeah. Well, with that said, Kane's having some horrible matches here in the year 2000.
Right.
He is.
Bad match with Rikishi, bad match with Benoit. Come on, buddy.
So after the 20-minute opening promo and the opening match, they run down the card for tonight. As noted, Benoit versus Rock for the title, plus the brand new World Tag Team Champion Hardy Boys versus Edge and Christian in a title rematch in a ladder match.
Yes.
And Chris Jericho versus X-Pac in a First Blood match. Mm-hmm. Was somebody playing like No Mercy and handed the controller to a 12-year-old and told him to build a card? It's just a random steps right and left.
And poor Edge and
Well, I mean, it's not random with the Jericho the Jericho X-Pac thing, because remember, X-Pac keeps hitting him in the face with nunchakus and he's all bloody. That actually makes sense.
Random may be the wrong word, and
Yes.
the Hardys and Edge and Chris have been feuding, but you don't need 18 steps in every show.
and they had a cage match the night before, so think of that. They got to the building. Oh, by the way, you're in a ladder match. tonight.
These poor bastards. Austin goes to confront The Undertaker. Taker denies running Austin over, says whoever ran you over might run me over too, and they tease a fight someday.
I like this segment.
It was fine.
I've said it before. I This alive Undertaker is growing on me.
Huh.
I like his cha-spitting gimmick and his southern accent. We had two southern boys here
Texas boys.
threatening to beat each other up.
South Texas.
I liked it.
So Edge and Christian, reasonably, are upset with Mick Foley for booking them in a ladder match, making them do a ladder match to get their title rematch tonight. They're going back and forth, and Foley says something about how Lita's hot, and Edge smirks and says, maybe from a distance. I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed. Then Foley says tonight is their last title match. They respond by making a series of bad jokes, and finally they leave, and after they leave, it's revealed, well, they were in a bathroom clearly, but it's revealed there's a woman using a bathroom stall. That was the payoff. Bubba Ray Dudley versus Taz. We get a clip from Heat with the Dudleys and the APA meeting the Was Up guy from the Budweiser commercial.
After all these years.
That made me feel so old. That commercial's 20 years old now. Good God. So the Dudleys come out. Taz comes out by himself, runs down the announcers because that feud must go on forever. He challenges Bubba to a singles match, and Bubba accepts. They fight. The ref gets bumped. Taz hits a suplex, which I guess is a banned move. He had to wait for this ref to get bumped. Then goes to argue with Lawler, sprays water on him, and then Raven debuts on Raw. He had apparently debuted the night before. But he grabs Jerry the King Lawler, color commentator, grabs him by the head, and gives him a DDT on the floor.
Yeah. This seems like a pretty serious thing.
Yeah.
Lawler's up 5 minutes later.
After the break, he's like toweling
Yes.
off. He's more concerned with the water that got sprayed in his face than the
Yes.
DDT on the floor. So Raven DDTs Bubba, and Taz wins.
All right, so here's the deal. Bubba and Taz come out, and before all of this other stuff, they're out there having a wrestling match. And this WWF audience was not ready for a wrestling match. So they're out there doing this match. And not to mention, Taz has been just a joke of late.
Yep.
But they're doing this match, and nobody cares. Place is totally dead. And then there's a ref bump. We really needed a ref bump in this match. And Taz hits a big suplex. And when he went out to yell at Jerry Lawler, I was like, why are you yelling at Jerry Lawler? You're winning this match. I was just so irate watching this as a fan. I'm sick of this Taz angle. I'm sick of this Taz Jerry Lawler thing. I have no idea why Taz is so mad at everybody. Then Raven debuts, and like, ECW Raven, but no one in the WWF cares one bit about Raven. This grungy guy comes out of the crowd. They're all just like watching him. Oh, okay, cool. DDT's that guy. This was just nothing. This ship is on the way down. That's the point I'm getting at. It's abundantly clear.
Backstage, Hunter does not know why Steph is mad at him. So she explains.
When is her birthday, by the way?
Apparently today.
It's today, which adds up.
Yeah. So she says she chose Hunter last night over Kurt.
Day after Whitney's birthday. I'll never forget it now.
Well, remind you of that next year. She says she chose Hunter over Kurt, but at least Kurt acknowledged it was her birthday. Hunter's like, I didn't forget your birthday. Your present's sitting at home, gift wrap, waiting for when we get off the road.
Who'd he call to do that?
A word of advice, men. Don't do this. Trust me on that one. Then she says the way you kissed me after the match was rough and not romantic. He says, well, my ribs were stomped in. I wasn't feeling romantic. And that kiss was just a message to Angle to prove you were mine. All right. Here we see, in fact, Lawler is, in fact, totally fine. Not a care in the world about this DDT on the floor. Edge and Christian versus the Hardys in a ladder match. So for 5-6 minutes, it's a very tame TV-level ladder match. And then suddenly, they put this giant ladder in the corner. And the next thing you know, Jeff is climbing for the belts in the middle of the ring, and they pull the ladder out from under him, and he's hanging from the belts, and Edge spears him in midair. I think they recreated this at WrestleMania next year, and it's much more famous.
Yes. It was a lot higher, too.
I mean, that's why. But yeah, they debuted it here, and then they do a lot of insane shit. They're falling off ladders over and over again. It's not like a good wrestling match, because literally one guy climbs the ladder, opponent runs up, grabs him, does he move off the ladder, repeat for 5 minutes. But it's completely nuts. There's diamond cutters in here, power bombs off ladders. And finally, Edge and Christian are standing on ladders on either side of Jeff. Or Matt, whichever. Jeff and Lita tip their ladders over, leaving Matt on the big ladder in the ring. He climbs the belts and he wins. It was nuts.
All I know is half these men are retired. Half of them could be retired at any time. Some of them retired very early because of all of these injuries. They're out there just absolutely killing each other. And this was just one of those matches that everybody remembers from the Attitude Era. I was watching this crazy match and these crazy dudes doing all these crazy spots, and I'm thinking, 8 years earlier, we're watching Superstars, where there's just a voodoo guy squashing geeks, and like every now and then the Bushwhackers will be in an 8-man with some other stars. It's like, this business changed so much in 8 years.
Yes.
From WWF Superstars that we watch to this, okay? Then you think back, well, what happened 8 years ago? It was 2011. The show's exactly the same.
Yes.
Nothing has changed. That was kind of eye-opening.
This was 12 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a pretty darn good match. I enjoyed it.
They should have just come out and done a nothing-happening Raw match with an angle. Instead, they tried to do a pay-per-view match, and they almost killed each other.
And no one remembers it.
Half the people were retired. All of them save one, Brian.
Well, Matt's not retired. Matt's
okay.
Matt is not officially retired.
Well, Lita's
yet.
retired. I'm sorry.
Actually, well, no, guess not.
Austin interrogates the Stooges, and appropriately, they stooge each other off.
He's sick of them lying. This was so weird because he interrogates them. Then he says, I know it wasn't you two, because you don't have the sack to run me over. That's something I'm sure Steve Austin would say. You don't have the sack. Clearly, he was getting scripted by this point. And he says, if I find out that you know who did it, I'll stump a mud hole in you. So then he leaves, and right as they cut away, Patterson turns to Briscoe and says, you're sick, and you smoke too much. What? What did that have to do with it?
I don't know, but it was funny.
It was funny.
More voter registration garbage, and they're still trying to get Bush and Gore on SmackDown.
Oh.
So dumb.
Chyna comes out in her Playboy covers in the ring.
Joni Lauer comes out.
All right, Joni Lauer comes out.
This was something.
Listen, she had a really rough life, and she had a sad end, okay? I'm glad that she achieved in a way that she was very proud. She was very, very proud to be on the cover of Playboy. She came out here and she talked forever. And I don't even have a problem with all of the talking that she did. And like I said, I'm happy for her. I'm glad that she got to give this speech. But these fans were so over this speech within about 30 seconds.
They did not want to see this emotional person bearing their soul.
No, and like, they were mostly polite, but first there was that murmur that you hear when people clearly aren't listening and they don't care. And then you actually did have people start to boo.
Yeah.
And it's like, after all of that soul bearing that nobody cared about, that went on for like 5 minutes, they just immediately go into an angle with the right to censor.
Yep.
I'm like, this is just not working. And Val comes out, and my God, I get it. This is pornography. Okay? Look,
sugar-coated pornography.
I said it in 10 seconds, okay? Yeah. He's out there going on and on and on for hours. Eddie comes out with flowers. I'm like, is this an opening segment? This thing's gone on for 25 minutes. And then, finally, I just lost interest, okay? I know that later they did an Eddie Guerrero Val Venus match. But more to the point, when they finally do that match, after this long segment with Chyna bearing her soul as Joni Lauer and talking about being called a freak growing up and finally achieving and shoving it in everyone's face, and then RTC bearing her for 10 minutes, and then Eddie coming out to make the save and challenging Val, they finally do that match, and nobody cares. The crowd is comatose for that match. The ship is sinking. Did I say that yet today? Well, I'm saying it again.
You did. I want to add Eddie's line about right to censor when he says he offers to defend his IC title against one of these stupid homies mano a mano, if they got the pantalones.
If they're wearing pants?
The pants? If they have the pants, you'll fight them? All right. So there you go. Angle's backstage. I remember this vividly. Angle, it's the year 2000. The Summer Olympics. When he's looking at the Olympic. I guess the Olympics are going on.
Yeah.
Okay. He's got the USA Today Olympics section. He's opened and scanning the wrestling results.
Yes.
And he's just going down the list. Beat that guy. Beat that guy. Could beat that guy. Beat that guy. Beat that guy. It's awesome. Trish comes in. Cleavage everywhere. Trying to distract him. He barely notices. Totally blows her off.
First she says, "Did you see China's Playboy issue?"
Yes.
Kurt says, "I don't read Playboy." Goes back to reading the paper.
Yes. So on the pay-per-view or SmackDown, one of them, Angle had a fake medal he wanted to give to Austin as a gift, and Austin turned it down. Trish wants to see it and asks if he still has it. So she says, "Yeah, I got it right here." He hands it to her. And she puts it on and drops it neatly between her breasts and asks Kurt to look. And finally, he notices.
Now he's paying attention.
He did in fact pay attention.
And once he's finally paying attention, they cut away.
Well, that was the end. The end was she got his attention.
Okay, I don't know what the hell happened in this match.
I don't either, but I guarantee you it's not what was supposed to happen.
I think what happened, Jericho and X-Pac are doing a first blood match, and X-Pac goes outside, and he's over by the timekeeper, and he is mad.
He's furious.
He's swearing, and he's
screaming at the top of his lungs.
And he gets in the ring, and he looks over at him again, and he's screaming and everything like that. The only thing that I can figure is that it was something involving the bottle that he was supposed to hit Jericho with. Because that's where he ended up to get the bottle at the end of the match.
And when he finally gets it, you can see people pointing, it's over here, we found it, or something.
Yes, I think they couldn't find the bottle, and somebody gave him the note that they couldn't find the bottle, and he flipped his lid. Now, quite frankly, it's a first blood match. Like, you can't just throw the guy into the post.
Sure.
Or you could make something up to get him. It's fake. You know what I'm saying?
What?
You don't have to use the bottle. But he needed to use this bottle. And finally, I guess they found the bottle. Hopefully it was the bottle.
And not a bottle.
And not someone just got a real glass bottle and decided, gotta take one for the team. Y2J, and waffled him.
He breaks the bottle over his head, and then very briefly they get in the ring, and he's got something in his hand, and you can't really tell what it is.
No.
And I think it was supposed to be some big dramatic weapon.
A shard of glass is what it was.
Maybe that's what it was supposed to be. It looked to me like... Was it?
Yeah, like the label. He grabbed the label and like there was...
Because it looked like he watered
fake
up a piece of paper to me. But anyway, the most amazing thing about all this is that if you look at X-Pac's face, and especially if you listen to him, you can tell how angry he is and how he's ready to just slaughter everyone at ringside. Mm-hmm. But if you just watch him do the match, he doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah, he's professional.
No.
They're doing...
I mean, swearing profusely like that is missing a beat.
They're no, Brian. They're doing spots. They're not chopping and kicking. They're running the ropes and ducking and doing stuff. And he's like ducking a close. As he ducks, you hear him just say "fuck." He's just infuriated. But he goes through everything. It's an amazing spectacle to see. And the amazing thing about all of this is that it goes like 3 minutes.
Yeah, they did a first blood match with two guys getting color in less than 3 minutes.
So X-Pac wins, but he goes to the nunchucks. But Jericho gets them. He beats Pac bloody, puts them in the walls of Jericho on the table, which, as we all know, hurts more. And that's the end. This was something else.
I'll say.
Austin goes to confront Hunter and Steph. He notes that since he's been gone, Hunter has climbed his way to the top, and no one has benefited more from his absence than Hunter. Hunter says, "If I was going to take you out, I'd do it face to face. I did not run you over. I don't know who did." And Austin buys it. Michael Cole interviews The Rock. The Rock on this show, I'm just going to guess that China went way longer than she was supposed to. Call it a hunch. Rock gets 1 minute to say, "Benoit hasn't won shit and I'll beat him tonight."
This match.
We have a China in Playboy video package set to a Wicked Game knockoff, which made me laugh. Mm-hmm. Someone needs to go back and count the number of times Jim Ross says these photos are classy and or tasteful. He's redundant about it. Eddie and Val. Nobody cares.
Nope.
Steven's in the apron. China goes to pants him. I don't think his ass was supposed to hang all the way out like this, but his ass hangs all the way out. And Eddie pushes Val into Steven and schoolboys him for the win.
I don't know why I found it so funny, but she pulls his pants off, and he's there in his underwear and his enormous knee brace.
Well, you need your knee brace,
Yeah.
Brian.
I mean, frankly, the two, I'm sure if you only had one of them, it would be the knee brace.
He would probably choose a knee brace. Hey, listen, fans absolutely adored the finish. There was a man in his underwear.
and his ass.
So they went crazy. Eddie got the win. But man, they spent so much time to build up a spot where a guy was in his underwear.
Right.
Trust me, I could do it much quicker than that.
That is true. Crash Holly is at WWF New York trying to buy a drink, but they don't buy his ID. They think it's fake and he gets kicked out.
I was just wondering how he got in.
I know a guy who on his 18th birthday went to the strip club and was rejected. Even though it was his legit ID, they did not buy it. They assumed he was so young looking he must be an underage, and they refused to let him in.
Wow.
Stephen William
wasn't
Regal.
me.
No, that's a good point. It was not Brian. Someone even more young.
That happened to me last week.
Yeah. Stephen William Regal is here to be the Goodwill Ambassador, and is happy to be at an institute of learning such as Penn State to talk about the joy of literature. And he announces to the crowd, I will now recite to you in its entirety William Shakespeare's Hamlet. And
I bet you this would be good.
he begins to do a one-man show.
He should do this.
I was having so much fun. He invites the fans, if you know the play, feel free to join in. He gets about 8 lines in, and Steve Austin interrupts and stuns him.
yeah.
And it's too bad.
Can we talk about how he stunned him? Well, he walked down to the ring.
Right.
He walked into the ring. He walked right up to him, and he booted him and stunned him.
Yes.
There was no, hey, let me shake your hand. Hey, let's have a beer together. It was stride down the aisle, step into the ring, boot him in the gut, give him the stunner, and walk to the
It was
back.
perfect.
Every time people tell me, oh my God, Steve Austin was a heel or a tweener. No, he was a baby face. There was a heel being an idiot. He walked down, face to face, he gave him the move, and he walked away.
Yep.
There is no shades of gray, tweener, none of that crap. He was a flat out good guy here. Fans loved him.
If Austin had been more patient, he would have let Regal get to the part where Hamlet describes Rosencrantz and Guildenstern as my 2 schoolfellows, whom I will trust as I will adders fanged. Because in Hamlet, in fact, the lesson is don't trust anybody, especially not a snake.
Man,
Austin would be a big fan of Hamlet, is what I'm saying.
maybe he is. How do you know he's not?
Well, he
Because
just
he's a
booted it-
redneck?
Regal's reading it and he booted him in the gut.
Well, he may still like it, but dislike Regal.
That's fair. I hadn't thought of that. It is personal in this case, what you're saying.
Yes.
Chris Benoit versus The Rock. Have I mentioned how great Chris Benoit and The Rock are together?
I could watch these men wrestle each other every single day. Of course, it's the main event of Raw, and so they have a good match for like 4 minutes, and then 5,000 things have to happen. We got a ref bump. Actually, no, we didn't.
Yeah, we did.
First, well, later.
Okay.
Rock goes for a cover. Shane pulls the ref out of the ring. How is this not a disqualification? Earl goes and screams at Shane. He gets back on the apron. Then he gets knocked off the apron and laid out. Did we really need both of those things? How about he just takes a bump? Then Shane attacks Rock from behind. Rock takes him out. Shane lays out the Rock. Benoit tries to hit Rock with a chair. He destroys Shane McMahon. I hate to bring this up. You know how many times I've watched Shane McMahon in 2019 on SmackDown trying to remember his lines? And I watch these shows and he's just destroyed over and over again. He's hit in the head with chairs. He's suplexed upside down and falls headfirst on the cement by Kurt Angle. He falls off these giant things, and yeah, I know he went through something, there was a crash pad, but that's a long way down. Like, your brain is just surrounded by a little bit of fluid. This is very concerning to watch. There's no referee. Jim Ross is screaming, can we get a referee out here for crying out loud? There's no referee. And finally, Hunter came out. Did I mention that? Hunter came out, and Stephanie came out, and Kurt Angle came out, and Rock throws Benoit to Hunter. Hunter snaps the neck on the ropes. Rock hits the rock bottom for the pin. And there's still more afterwards. Did we really need all of this? Where are we going here?
Well, where we're going is Angle and Benoit team up to brawl with Hunter and Rock. Stephanie pulls Angle off Hunter, and as they are kind of confronting each other verbally. Benoit walks up and says, "What are you doing? That's Stephanie McMahon." And he drops her with a headbutt.
Yeah.
Angle's appalled. Benoit leaves. So what happened here was two things. One, they just switched partners in these feuds. So instead, it's been Hunter and Angle. Now it's going to be Rock, Angle, and Hunter Benoit. Two, and more importantly, this leads to some of the most fun tag matches between these four dudes. I hope they're on Raw. They may be on SmackDown. I don't remember that well. But these matches are fun.
Well, I will say that there's good news and bad news. The good news is Benoit gave her the safest headbutt I've ever seen.
That is good news.
The bad news is that was very disturbing.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes.
I was disturbed.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a better word.
It happens a lot.
I'm too tired.
It happens a lot with Benoit matches, but yes.
Yes. All right. Would you like to hear your music?
Now's a good time, since we're at the end. The finishes on this show were shitty DQ and a shitty 2-minute brawl. Pin after interference. Win after interference in a ladder match. Win in a first blood match that clearly did not go the way they planned. Pin after ass exposure. And in the main event, pin after interference by 2 men and a woman and use of a steel chair.
Wow.